childhood, NAFTA was a 4-letter word. My dad hated politicians and politics, but there were 2 candidates for president that he loved. Ross Perot with the bumper sticker on the pickup truck. I was embarrassed about it at the time, but now I get it. Why my dad was aligned with that. I mean, he worked in a factory and could feel it. And then he never got excited about another candidate until Donald Trump came down the escalator. He was for him on day one. I argued with my dad about it. My dad was right, and he was looking for that type of candidate that would protect his job and his livelihood and his culture, where he came from, an American culture where hard work means something. Go to work every day to put food on the table. When I was born, we lived in a trailer park. My mom was a nursing home cook for 30 years, and my dad worked in the same factory, retired from it with a good pension and health care, and took something away from it. And now I'm in Washington in this Trump era, and President Trump is speaking to voters just like my dad about how we can create policies at the federal level to help people like him more than ever before. The old school Republican Party would sell him out, and the new Republican Party, the new conservative movement, the Heritage leading the way on his front, understands the importance of. When I first got to Washington, child tax credits were really controversial on the right. Is that the role of federal? Is that a conservative policy? Well, what as conservatives, what's more important than conserving the family? And child tax credits, I think, were it opened the door to an understanding that pro-family tax policy and economic policy is critical to protecting and conserving the family, which is the family is fundamental to the survival of our country and our American culture. So you guys have a lot of really good ideas, and you guys are talking about smart ideas today, and I don't belong in those conversations, but I'm reading what you're working on, what Heritage is working on, and talking about expanding, creating new tax provisions for families, for newlyweds. You and I have worked on legislation together to create school choice for child care. I mean, I get questions at home all the time. What are you doing to bring down the cost of child care? Because it's too darn expensive to have. A lot of families work. Both mom and dad go to work all day. Some of them work more than one job, and then they got to pay for just to afford getting by. Then rising child care costs on top of that. Not to mention all the other things that we have to pay for, gas prices and groceries. And Heritage is coming up with unique ideas that literally nobody else in Washington D.C. is thinking about, to come up with ideas for Trump savings accounts, like provisions for newlyweds and school choice for child care. These are really good ideas that directly help new families. I think will go a long way to encouraging younger couples to get married younger, have kids younger, and preserve this great country as our founders imagined.
And you mentioned President Trump, who one of his campaign planks was to help the nuclear family. And of course, Vice President Vance has been all about family policy. So we're seeing a change in tone from the top. And you mentioned old school Republican Party, et cetera. Something I always found curious, now we're nonpartisan here, but married voters tend to vote more Republican than non-married. Yet you don't see that many Republican politicians saying we need more pro-marriage policies. And you're a bit of an exception to that. Right now, marriages seem a bit like a luxury good, that it's out of reach for people, that it's too expensive. Marriage is out of reach, and are there policy solutions that we need to put forward to address that affordability crisis is that people think, you know what, I need to have all my ducks in a row, and then I'm worthy of marriage. Because I don't think that's what the path you pursued. You got your MBA well after you got married, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I think about what is the statistic? Marriage is like you talk about the American dream, and my mom and dad's idea. I mean, growing up in lived in a trailer park, and my mom and dad worked hard. I have two younger brothers. They worked hard to put food on the table, and my mom and dad's American dream was that each of the three of their boys would grow up and have a better shot, have something more than what they had. And my mom and dad saw the American dream, and I've lived the American dream. I mean, I've seen it. But I think there's a statistic that 98% of married couples exceed poverty rates, or what's a better way to say that? That it's like marriage the poverty. So as policymakers and as smart people who are involved in policy, like how could we not go there to solve all of the big issues that our country faces? Then recognize that we need to incentivize and promote marriage and family in this great country, and it's sort of the silver bullet for all of our problems. And you guys are coming up with smart ideas on ways to do that. I mean, we talked, when it comes to tax policy, and we just did the big beautiful bill. We expanded the child tax credit a little bit. You talk about it. And when I was a kid, I didn't grow up in a house where. Don't take this the wrong way. My parents worked hard, but I'm not. I didn't grow up in a house where I'm going to inherit a lot. My parents, they did everything they could to buy a home and pay off a mortgage and have a little bit of something to pass on to the kids. But I grew up in a place where I would hear about inheritance tax. I think that's for rich people, but it's really not. I mean, the inheritance tax is for blue-collar, working-class Americans who grow up and think they want to pass something on to their kids, and then they get a tax hit for it. So inheritance taxes, eliminating marriage penalty taxes. These are all things that Heritage has worked on for years. But in this new era, the ideas that you guys are coming up with are really novel ideas and significant, that are going to go a long ways in this next generation to help families even more. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
And there's competing ideas, right? On the full spectrum of government should do nothing to government should do a crash program to create artificial wombs. So in 20 years, we could just solve the problem that way. Other folks think that immigration could be the solution, or government subsidized egg freezing and IVF. We're on the side of try to make it easier for people to get married earlier and restorative reproductive medicine, et cetera. So we have all these competing visions as to how we can address the problem. What do you have to say to those who think, let's just immigrate our way out of the problem, or technological solutions instead of, how God intended?
Well, the studies show that mass migration, and I hear this all the time. Big corporate CEOs or chamber of commerce types, business community. Well, we just need more labor. So whether they're in favor of turning a blind eye to illegal immigration and the crisis we faced because of the Biden era, or they just want to loosen all of the standards and rules for work visas and legal immigration and flood more labor. I hear this all the time, and in the old days it was more convincing, but now I think President Trump has shown us that twofold. I think first of all, the studies showed that in the second generation of legal immigration, that waves that come into our country, that their fertility rates come down to the low fertility rates of everybody else. But then secondly, what mass migration does to eliminate those solid, good paying, blue collar jobs like factory workers, or one industry that I'm really concerned about that is that's really important to Indiana is the trucking industry. It's been completely taken over by legal and illegal immigrants who've taken over the trucking industry. Causes a lot of other dangerous issues as well. But at the end of the day, what has been allowed to happen in this country has taken a lot of those trucking jobs can be six-figure jobs, but a lot of those jobs have been taken away from Americans and given to legal and illegal immigrants who've taken over that industry. And what that does to the effect that has on families and working class blue collar America is real. So we have to look at the effect that has on families as well.
Any final words of encouragement? Right, America 250 now. The family's a bit on the ropes. What gives you hope for the next 250?
My hope is in all of you. As a policymaker, when I'm going to sporting events with my daughters play soccer and track and cheerleading, and I go to these sporting events. I'm at this age where I'm starting to feel old. But when I get on a plane, fly to Washington D.C. and enter the United States Senate, I feel pretty young. And I plan on doing it for a while. It's an important job. I feel God has called me to be here to be a part of this mission and this fight. And what I'm really hungry for right now more than ever is good ideas. And what you guys are doing here today is producing some really good policy ideas that deserve debate in the Congress that can help families. And like I said before, I was always a social conservative first, concerned about our culture and what type of America are we turning over to our kids. But now I'm more convinced than ever that these pro-family causes are directly impacted by economic issues like what all of you are discussing. So keep coming up with good ideas and passing them on to me and a growing number of members of the House and the Senate who are thinking differently as conservatives than what Republicans and conservatives thought about before about these issues, because we have a ripe moment in this new era to advance causes that are really good for families. We also look abroad, right? I mean, you never talked a little bit ago about other countries that we can learn from that have seen their fertility rates rebound and marriage rates increase, and we can look around and find some good ideas and study other countries. But we all know at the end of the day, America is going to lead, and we have everything that we need right here at home to rebuild the foundation of our country and our American culture, and that comes from the family.
Wonderful way to end our conversation. Senator Banks, you are a champion for the family in the Senate, and you live the life. Thank you so much. The next part of our program is our Heritage All-Star Panel. I'll be moderating it and also being a speaker on it. We have Delano Squires, Emma Waters, and Rachel Sheffield. Delano Squires is director of the Richard and Helen DeVos Center for Human Flourishing. He focuses on policies and social norms that promote marriage, fatherhood, and healthy families. He's the author of the forthcoming book, The Vanishing Black Family: How Welfare and Feminism Made Marriage Optional and Children Vulnerable. We also have
DeVos Center for Human Flourishing, Heritage Foundation. DeVos is a huge donor towards Black.
Such as foster care reform, homelessness, educational choice, and child nutrition programs. Finally, we have Emma Waters, who's a senior specialist in the Center for Technology and Human Person at the Heritage Foundation. Her focus is on family, biotechnology, and reproductive medicine. She's a former visiting fellow with the Independent Women's Forum. She's wonderful in that she exemplifies how family-friendly Heritage is, where I remember seeing her not too long ago giving a presentation here with a child tugging at her pant leg, and we love babies here at Heritage. So please welcome our three panelists, Emma, Delano, and Rachel. It was a wonderful chat with Senator Banks, and he did mention a lot of the heritage policies that we've been working on for quite some time. It took us literally years to get our special report on the family out, in large part because nobody has found the silver bullet answer to the demographic crisis. We spent years studying it and visiting foreign countries. In fact, Vlad was one of the people who helped us learn the lessons from Europe and what works and what doesn't work. We started out by focusing exclusively on the number of babies born. Right? That is the demographic cliff that we're facing. It's a matter of mathematics. If you don't have above replacement birth rate, the population will disappear by default. The American experiment will be lost by default. And it's the greatest existential threat our society faces. However, we ran into a couple of issues. Nobody figured out a policy solution that substantially raised the birth rate back to figure that out. And then we figured out, okay, what other issues can we address that can help with this problem? And in part talking to Vlad and other folks, we came upon marriage as being this linchpin. And Lyman Stone mentioned it in his panel earlier that marriage is actually one of the more effective ways of increasing the birth rate. And by the way, we're the Heritage Foundation. We're the conservative mothership, as we're sometimes called, and we are as pro-family as it gets. And family, we mean a mom, a dad in a committed union with children, raising them in that stability and in a committed relationship for life. Like that's that vision that leads to the maximal human flourishing. And by the way, it leads to higher birth rates. And by the way, it leads to greater human happiness and lower depression rates. So it all kind of came together, which is why our policy solutions are key to marriage. That's what makes our policy solutions distinctive. They all have marriage at the core. Now we have three different policy experts here in their own various areas. I want to start by asking you all. I'll start with Rachel. How did we get to this point? And from your lens, you worked a lot on the welfare state. How do we get to the point where marriage was seen as not just optional, but in some cases a negative?
Thanks, Roger. So the U.S. government actively penalizes marriage, and it does this primarily through the welfare system. Now, we have had, we can go back to the 1960s when welfare programs greatly expanded. So this has been going on for 60 years plus, because there were welfare programs even prior to that. So this has been going on for generations. And when we think about it, yes, as Roger said, marriage is that is where children are raised. Those who are married are far more likely to have children, and it's the best place for children to be raised. Children raised in married parent homes are far less likely to be poor, and beyond that, they're also much less likely to experience a multitude of risks that probably many of you are familiar with. This, I hope that you've heard these statistics. Just lower risk of dropping out of school, greater educational attainment, better health, better physical, emotionally, and physically. They're also a lot less likely to experience abuse, and yet our government penalizes marriage. And how does it do this? Well, so if we look at our welfare system, which is a very large system that consists of a web of 90 plus programs, or 90 and growing. And it's a $1.7 trillion welfare system. So this is not, this is not a small, isolated program. A few programs. It's very large, and it touches many people. So let's say, for example, let's look at a mother. She's a single mother. She has 2 young children. She's working, minimum wage-ish, and making about $20,000 a year. So she's going to be eligible and likely receiving a large package of welfare benefits, things like Medicaid, cash assistance from the Earned Income Tax Credit, possibly from the TANF. She'd be receiving food stamps. Her children would be receiving school meals, or if the child is in a child care program, the younger child, non-school age, she'd be receiving child care assistance, or and there's school meal program or meal programs for child care programs. What else am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something big, but potentially like housing assistance. So let's say then she is living with the father of those children, but they're not married, and he's earning about $30,000 a year. Now, if they remain unmarried and his income is off the books, she'll continue to receive those benefits. But the moment they decide to get married, and suddenly his income is now officially there, what happens? Well, their benefits are going to be substantially reduced. Basically, we have this setup that is prohibiting or is inhibiting them from entering into marriage. Now, that it's if they're cohabitation and marriage are also not the same thing. A cohabiting couple is much less likely to stay together. If you look at the data, it's about 50% of couples who are cohabiting at the time of the child's birth. 50% of those couples will have broken up by the time that child reaches his 3rd birthday, compared to about, I want to say it's like 12 or 15% of married couples. So this is a huge difference. These are not comparable institutions. The other thing too is that our welfare system undermines work, and that undermines fatherhood, because it says, like, if you don't work, then because most programs do not have a work requirement, that's how it undermines work. And the father has traditionally been the breadwinner. Fathers continue to be either the primary breadwinner or a primary breadwinner. So by undermining work, we undermine fatherhood, we undermine marriage. So this is why, when we look in the United States, we look at marriage decline, and it's happening across the board, income, education level, but primarily where we have seen the greatest destruction is among lower income Americans. And just to note too that welfare marriage penalties, it's not just, we're not just talking about, the lowest quintile, we're talking further up among lower middle income families as well. So this is one way that we've gotten ourselves into this mess of broken families.
So how many thousands of dollars potentially are we talking about if a person gets married who is receiving government assistance?
Yeah, and so that's going to vary depending on the income. But for the example that I gave, if you had that, $20,000 from the mother, $30,000 from the father, they'd be getting, with their combined earnings and their welfare, they'd be getting around $80,000. But if they got married, then they would lose about $15,000 in benefits. So it's a lot of money that they're losing. Now it's going to vary. It's kind of it's big. If you look at, anyway, I was at a working group, Eric Randolph and then Robert Rectiger did a lot of work on this, but they've got their heat maps of like where things are dropping off. But yes, we're talking significant amount of money. And also, it's about 80% some of kind of those lower middle income couples are subject to some type of marriage penalty that varies in size.
I think if you're in a hole and that's the marriage crisis, the first thing you stop digging. So stop penalizing marriage and people who actually try to get out of poverty by getting married. It's quite counterproductive. Delano, you've done a lot of study on the Black family and the breakdown there. Talk to us a bit about the cultural forces, broadly speaking, that have contributed to this breakdown in family and marriage.
Yeah, so what I like to say is that whenever we think about changes in family dynamics, family structure, family outcomes, I think of one of at least three fundamental elements. It's the institution of marriage, there's the role of men, there's the role of women. Particularly in the Black family, and I cover this in my book, and thank you for plugging that, Roger. The Vanishing Black Family, out June 16th. Available now for pre-order wherever books are sold. But I talk about how the institution of chattel slavery and the institution of marriage are fundamentally incompatible. Right? Marriage comes with a set of duties and obligations that husband and wife have to one another, and those duties cannot be completely fulfilled in an environment where a third party owns you and or your spouse. And then I go on to talk, and this picks up on what Rachel was saying, and both also Rachel and what Carrie was saying in the previous panel, which is in the 1960s, you had the rise of two cultural shocks that hit at almost the exact same time. The rapid expansion of the welfare state that displaced men from their traditional and rightful role as providers in their home, and sort of the advent of the second wave feminist movement, which I would argue deceive women into believing that femininity is weak, masculinity is toxic in men but empowering in women, that marriage is oppressive, that the home is a prison, and that children are a burden. So when you do those two, when those two things happen, that creates a disruption within the home, and then you see those things sort of perpetuating themselves down through the generations. So, for instance, in 1965, about a quarter of Black children were born to unmarried parents. That was considered a national emergency. So if anyone's heard of the Moynihan Report, which came out in 1965, officially titled The Negro Family, A Case for National Action, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, then Assistant Labor Secretary, was saying, look, this family breakdown is a real issue. That was 25% non-marital birth rate. By the 1970s, it crossed 50%. By the 1980s, it hit 60%. Late 90s, it peaked at 70% and has been at or around 70% since then. And in Washington, D.C., this city where we sit right now, the non-marital birth rate among Black families is 77%. So close to 80% of Black children in this city are born to unmarried parents, compared to 93% of white children who are born to married parents. So that is a 70 percentage point gap. Several things are going on there, and I'll sort of end this part of my comments quickly, hopefully. Several things are going on there. One, again, you see the interaction of policy and culture. So let me put some meat on the bones for you. The Washington Post did a story 2 years ago on a DC program. And for those who don't know, before coming to Heritage, I worked 15 years in local government in Washington, D.C. So I know D.C. government quite well. Program is called Strong Families, Strong Futures. Basically a UBI program. The pilot program part of it gave $10,800 to new and expecting moms. When the Washington Post wrote it up, the first woman that they profiled, they described as a stay-at-home mother of three. And I said, okay, this is a good start. No, my wife's a stay-at-home mom, a homeschooler. I'm looking forward to hearing what this woman's husband does. They said she was living in a subsidized two-bedroom apartment, was on WIC, SNAP, TANF, so sort of basic, welfare programs, cash transfer programs. And then she participated in this program. And her situation was one of two times that they mentioned the word father, only because it said that the father of her three children went along because she used $6,000 of her $10,800 for a luxury trip to Florida, basically to give her kids, more exposure. I just came back from Disney. That's probably about right in terms of how much, it'll cost to, take a family. We're a family of six. I think they're a family of five. But it was clear to me that the father in this instance was the government, right? That was who was the head of her household. And it's clear to me that if you don't address these family dynamics, the breakdown of the family actually becomes woven into both policy and programs, to the extent where dads are not even mentioned. And this particular program does not deal with the relationship between the mothers and the father or fathers of their children. The program District Dads, also administered by the same entity, does deal with the relationship between dads and moms, because the administrators understand that if dad has a bad relationship with mom, he is probably not likely to see and have a good relationship with his children. So there are a lot of dynamics. Again, it's an interplay of both family and culture. But I do think that there is more that the government, both federal and especially local, can do to begin to create a culture that revives marriage and makes it clear that, family structure is important.
So the U.S. is unique in that we're not the worst in terms of overall marriage rates in the world, but we are in terms of out-of-wedlock births. We lead the world in a number of out-of-wedlock births. Why is the U.S. distinctive in this particular regard, you think?
I think it's a mix of several things, and all of them we've talked about, right? I think the declining importance of religion, other cultural factors that help keep a particular life script in place. So in 1965, again, I'll go back to 65, that's when a lot of things started to change. The national non-marital birth rate was about 8%. So 8% of all American children were born out of wedlock. Today it's 40%. So again, part of it, the decline in religion, part of it, if a man got a woman pregnant in 1965 and marriage was not on the table, her father, along with his Remington, would make sure that marriage was put on the table. Right? So you had the reality of shotgun marriages completely disappeared today. You also have, again, 6 decades of cultural programming that says that marriage is not valuable, desirable, accessible, or indispensable for the purpose of forming a family. So a lot of it is, again, it's policy, it's welfare policy, which provides incentives to have children out of wedlock. Part of it is culture, and part of it, honestly, is a failure for parents, even ones who are concerned about family formation out there, to hold the little bit of territory that they have in here, which is forming their own children. So sometimes what you'll see is kids who come from, married background, two-parent home, begin to adopt sort of the family formation patterns of the broader culture. And I've seen this, particularly when it comes to cohabitation, which used to, as the old folks that I grew up with, they call it shacking up. And typically a man and woman will shack up if they were headed towards marriage. Now cohabitation happens a lot earlier in the relationship life cycle, not after 5 years of dating and 2 years of engagement. It's after a few months of dating, particularly if you live in a large city where the cost of living is high. So when you do that, you set in place patterns of behavior where oftentimes it's a yes to the baby, where baby is yes, but marriage is maybe.
So Emma, you bring your children to work. You brought your baby to work today. Thank you. And you're in the Tech Policy Center, Tech and Human Flourishing. What is the role of technology in this entire question of marriage and family? And there are many aspects to it. I mentioned with Senator Banks, there's ideas of technological solutions to the fertility crisis. There is the rise of online dating replacing the old-fashioned way of actually meeting people face-to-face. There is pornography, ubiquity, addiction to screens. How do all these things play a role in the crisis we have in marriage and family?
So in DC, if you've been here for more than 5 minutes, you've probably heard someone make a case that religion is downstream from policy, or policy is downstream from culture, and then everyone gets really upset trying to decide what the linchpin is that everything else follows from. And perhaps because conversations of marriage and family and even dating in the United States, it often comes down to the question of technology and how technology is unknowingly shaping the way that we see the world, our relationships, and even our children. So in the 19th century, there was a philosopher, his name was Marshall McLuhan. He's famous for the phrase, the medium is the message, which is very crucial for a lot of the people thinking about the philosophy of technology. But he has this example where he says that when a new technology comes on the scene, we cannot judge the technology simply by what it technically does, but by the social and psychic consequences it bears upon society. So he uses the example of the railroad and the railway in the United States. And so you can define what a train literally is, but he says that actually misses the point, because what happened when we actually had the railway system established across the United States was that it changed the means of communication and of travel. It changed the way we thought about cities and visiting our family and friends in a way that radically reshaped the United States, and in this sense, probably for good. And so I think about all of these questions of marriage, children, dating through that lens of how are the technologies that we have tacitly or even unknowingly embraced really reshaped the way that we think about these questions. And so I go back to, as Delano said, really the 1960s, where you see the birth rate peak in the 1950s and 60s at like 3.7 births or 3.6 births per family on average. And then starting in 1972 and 1973, you see a massive drop off in the number of births. Now, what happens in 1972 and 1973? Well, you have abortion erroneously decided as part of the Constitution through Roe v. Wade. But 1973 is also the year that hormonal birth control became a widespread used drug. And so 10 million women in 1973 were using the birth control pill. By 1978 and 1979, in vitro fertilization was created and began rapidly increasing in use ever since then. And then you have every technological development from the iPhone and dating apps online since the 2000s onward. And so while there's, of course, I think very different moral categories to think through each of those technologies, what we cannot deny is that as each of these reproductive technologies and social technologies has been introduced into our common life, often introduced long before we really have the moral language to think through how these technologies are actually impacting us and our relationships, not simply what the technologies are doing or what they're promising to do, you've seen a marked decline in the number of children that are being born. The United States has never gone above the replacement rate since 1973. And as all of our panelists have discussed, marriage rates have continued to decline. And sort of the joke now is like, we keep talking about how young people need to get married, but it turns out young people don't even know how to date. And so we have a massive problem, because now it's like, well, how do we get young people together in the first place in a healthy relationship or a healthy social setting where they can actually learn how to interact with one another and even consider a serious relationship, much less marriage, much less children. And so I think, yeah, those are some of the ways that I think technology has just been devastating for our understanding of the human person. But technology is not all bad. In fact, technology can also be this incredible blessing. So at the same time, I think we need to be very critical in our assessment of the technologies we've embraced as a society and the impact it's had. And at the same time, be incredibly optimistic about technologies that are truly innovative, restorative, and life affirming that can actually better help us reveal and understand and delight in who the human person is. So whether that's things like somatic gene editing, literally healing a young boy from deafness, a genetic condition of deafness, and now he can hear because of this gene editing technology that was introduced, or the ways that we're able to address and treat and actually restore natural fertility in men and women who want to have children because of these advancements in reproductive medicine in the proper, true sense. I think there's a lot to consider there, because that actually helps us better experience the natural relationships that bring such delight to life, rather than distracting us away from it in one form or another.
Well, building on that, you mentioned the potential good gene editing. What are the sort of darker versions of gene editing and control over our progeny?
Yes. Okay. So when you hear gene editing, you're probably thinking, Emma, isn't gene editing all about designer babies and engineered children and horrible things? And yes, sometimes it is. So the two different kinds that are worth keeping in mind here, there's somatic gene editing, which deals with the genetic editing of cells or genes within a human person. So if a child is born deaf due to a genetic malfunction in their DNA or elsewhere, depending on the condition, you're able to go into the body and actually restore or replace or fix that issue. That is not something that changes their progeny or the children that they'll have. It's done on a child who is born, and so you're not actually editing a human embryo, for example. The other kind of gene editing is germline gene editing, and this is where you get the designer babies concern, because germline gene editing is exclusively done on human embryos and then gametes and, well, eggs, so eggs and sperm. And so it inherently deals with the reproductive capabilities. So any change done through germline gene editing not only affects that human embryo, sperm, or egg, but every single child that person could then go to have. And it's where you tend to see these sorts of attempts at gene editing that aren't actually focused on therapeutic attempts to heal the human person, but can oftentimes very quickly move into these attempts to improve or optimize or select certain kinds of people. And so if you think about this in the case of polygenic genetic screening of human embryos, for example, you have companies in Silicon Valley that are promising to screen your human embryos and give you an active score, an accurate score, so they claim, about up to 2,000 conditions that your child may or may not develop, because we're talking about human embryos. It's not a diagnosis, it's just a screening test. But instead of healing something like deafness, it doesn't heal anything. It just says, well, your human embryo has the chance of developing male pattern baldness. Imagine if your parents didn't select you because you were going to go bald one day. Kind of harsh for some people, I think. Or it has to do with things like height or IQ or Alzheimer's or cystic fibrosis, conditions that may or may not be life-threatening, oftentimes deal with really deal with cosmetic preferences. But in either case, the technology isn't actually healing the human, it's just screening and selecting. And that's where it goes to a very dark place of consumer eugenics very, very quickly.
Yeah, you combine this consumerist model where not only is it destructive of the human embryo, but then they will outsource the actual caring of the child with a surrogate. And so it's this new way of thinking that there's going to be a technical solution for everything. Okay, so let's shift now to the policy solutions that we have been working on at Heritage for quite some time. I focused a lot on what we could do at the federal level, but that's not the exclusive zone. Our three marquee legislative ideas are, again, focused on marriage. One is nest accounts, which are taking the idea of the Trump accounts and making it apply to marriage. So the nest accounts and the Trump accounts are simple. When a child is born, the government deposits money into an account that grows over time, similar to a 401k, and it's available to them upon adulthood for certain reasons. Under the Trump accounts, which were passed in the one big beautiful bill, it's for buying a house, going to college, or starting a business. So it's based on particular events that, activities that you do, I should say. And that's kind of a way of boosting your entrance into adulthood and making your adult life easier. Conspicuously absent was marriage. Marriage was historically seen as the entrance into adulthood, historically in America. So our idea is to take the Trump version and make it Trump 2.0. We call it the nest account, the nest egg. We have a separate account just for marriage, about $2,500, and available and redeemable at the event of marriage. And you can use money for whatever you want. And if you have two young people, say they're around 28, by the time you've compounded that interest, you're talking like $35,000 plus between the two of you. We believe that would be quite the incentive that is very cheap on the front end. At $2,500 in the beginning, and you get $35,000 to $38,000 at the back end. And we have it such that it's a window between 18 and 30. 30 is the median age of marriage almost. And if you don't hit that window, then it's there for you as a retirement account. It's there to be waiting for you. Second idea we have, building on child tax credit, which Heritage was one of the pioneers of. If you are married, working, and have a child, you get a bonus. Similar to the adoption tax credit we have now, it's about $17,000. We spread it out over 3 years, and you get a 25% bonus for the third child and up. So again, taking tried and true ideals, but keying it to marriage. And one of the benefits of this particular proposal is that it's structured to specifically offset the marriage penalties in the EITC. Right? So as the EITC phases out, this one phases in to try to address the marriage penalty problem itself. Again, key to marriage. And the third one is similar to Senator Banks' idea that he's proposed on Capitol Hill. It's to equalize the subsidies we give to out-of-house commercial childcare with in-home childcare provisions. A common complaint people have is it's hard to raise a child today. It's very expensive. Let's make it easier. Great. But we make it easier only in one way. If you send your child to daycare in a commercial setting, then you're going to get all sorts of credits. Well, that's in a way saying if you provide it yourself as a mom or dad at home, you're going to get no credit whatsoever. So it's shifting people into one mode of life and one structure when a lot of people want to be able to raise their kids at home. And in fact, they lead to better outcomes for the kids when you have the parents there providing that time directly to their child. So our third proposal, again, also tied to marriage. You have an equalization between child care credits outside of the home for inside of the home for married families. That's the core proposals that we want to see action on Capitol Hill. We also recommend significant action with the administration, a whole of government approach. The left has done this on things like gender ideology, on ESG. They take every lever of government and they find a way to direct it to their policy goals. Let's do that for family. There's no bigger, more important issue. And we saw Secretary Duffy of the Department of Transportation is one of the first to implement this sort of approach when they have grant proposals, say for putting an off-ramp on a federally funded highway. They are specifically taken into account marriage rates and families. So if there's one town that has higher marriage and family formation and another town 2 miles away that has lower, the town that has better family prospects gets a preference for that highway fund spending. So off-ramp go there versus there. That creates enough of a core critical mass of married families, and that starts creating a culture around marriage and family support. And I've used the analogy of something like the Manhattan Project to get government to take this crisis seriously enough and find every tool and every measure. Federal level with congressional legislation, at the administrative level with regulations and deregulation and pro-family regulation. That's what it's going to take. Will it be enough? No. Government by itself will not be enough. We have to be quite realistic about it. Can we do it without government? My answer is yes. I'm sorry, my answer is no. We cannot do it without government. Excuse me. The answer is no. We cannot do it without government. Government helped get us into this mess. Government is going to be instrumental in getting us out of it, but it will not be enough by itself. Let's talk through the other policy solutions we're thinking of. Let's go with the tech side of things. What are some of the tech ideas in our paper that we've brought forward?
Yes, and this is what I love about the Heritage Family Policy paper, which, by the way, sits at a very accessible and readable 58,000 words, which is longer than Delano's book that's coming out and my book that just came out, but it's highly accessible, and it's because there isn't a single solution to declining birth rates. And so so as Roger said, it needs to be an all hands on deck question of how do we actually address every aspect of society well. And so no single solution on its own will be sufficient, and yet taken together, we might actually get somewhere. And this is, as an aside, what I've always loved about Heritage is that we've never had a single department that was the family policy department, or a single scholar that was the family policy scholar, but instead, many years ago, from the very top all the way down, there was a concerted effort to say, for every single issue we work on, domestic or international, the fundamental question is, how does this policy area impact the American family? And is it going to support the American family, or is it going to hinder the American family? And that is the basis by which we make decisions as to what sorts of policies we want to support or not. So within the Tech Policy Center, the way that that's looked is it's taken on a few different forms. Within my particular area, I work a lot on women's health, infertility, and reproductive medicine. And so we have pioneered restorative reproductive medicine, which is a root cause approach to treating infertility. And so that has really taken the incredible advancements that we've seen in science, medicine, and technology to actually understand what infertility is, how it's what its causes are within the man and woman's body, and then create personalized treatments to actually restore and optimize their natural fertility. Because a huge part of the discussion today that we haven't really even gotten into is that for many Americans, and in fact a growing number of Americans, it's not that they don't want children, it's that they are physically struggling to have those children. And that is undoubtedly a part of this declining birth rate discussion, with cases of infertility rising over the last 2 decades alone. And so how do we actually meet those parents where they are and give them the tools they need to address their infertility and have the children they desire? Elsewhere, we are doing things on kids' online safety and really prioritizing the health and innocence of children online. And so it's everything from addressing pornography to predatory practices on social media platforms, to ensuring that data security is a top priority so that cases of child sexual exploitation online, the depression and anxiety that comes from an overuse or exposure to social media isn't then having downstream effects in the relationships that people build or fail to build, the marriages and children they're having. Because the reality is that the greater increase we've seen in social media use has also correlated with a decline in people forming meaningful relationships and getting married and having kids. And again, that's just one piece of it, but is a very important piece of the puzzle at the same time. And so those are some of, I think, the most important tech areas that we're really prioritizing to support the family at all levels.
Rachel, on the welfare front, what are our leading welfare reform ideas?
Sure. So these come in a couple different forms. So, as I mentioned, work and how our welfare system undermines work and how that undermines fatherhood, then, work requirements, that's something, that we have, talked about for years, and we have implemented with welfare reform in 1996, but unfortunately there's that was one program that was very successful. However, as I mentioned, it's a very large welfare system, and also those reforms from 96 need to be strengthened. So work requirements, particularly in SNAP, food stamps program, as it's more generally known, which is one of the largest programs. We talked about reforming that and work requirements there. But another thing, and that, with the welfare reform in 1996, yes, work was a big piece of that, but however, it was also marriage, and strengthening marriage was the other part. And so all states receive money that they can use for strengthening marriage, and that they are supposed to be using for doing that. And there's very little, though, that states are doing. There are some good examples. Oklahoma has done good work on this, and Utah, and they use that money. They use some of that money or their own state dollars to do healthy marriage education. Now, because as I mentioned, we have generations of marital breakdown, particularly in lower income communities, and so people have the infrastructures, the script of how we do marriage has dwindled there, and even just getting the message out that marriage matters. Using public messaging campaigns to let people know hey, if children born within marriage are 5 times less likely to be poor, and using
idea that you put in the paper of marriage boot camps. What did you mean by that?
I thought it was a good idea. I didn't pick up on it that way. So when I talked about marriage boot camps, when I wrote it in the paper, I was thinking, imagine a program that starts with cohabiting couples who share at least one biological child. So they live together, they have a child together, right? Likely finances are tied up together in some way, shape, or form. And the idea of the boot camp was to take them through, a marriage or relationship education course. Could be 6 months, could be a year, could be administered by, a local church or a local nonprofit, using existing federal funds. Because the federal government, when I checked last year, had about $100 million earmarked for marriage and relationship education, fatherhood programs, family strengthening programs. So you would take that couple through this boot camp. You'd cover communication. You would cover, conflict resolution, intimacy, all the finances, all the major issues that couples will run into at some point. And successful completion of the program means that whenever this program is done, right, this man and woman are ready to walk down the aisle. So success is not, you take a survey prior, a survey prior to the program beginning, and you say, I don't really feel, I rate my relationship a 4 out of 10, and then you take it afterwards, and then, now I rate it a 6 out of 10. No, success is on date certain. You are walking down the aisle. We can have, the wedding and reception at a large public venue. It could be a local sports arena. It could be at a university. It could be at a conservative think tank, depending on where you are. You would pair that couple with marriage mentors, particularly couples who have gone through similar issues. And then one of the other ideas that we talk about in the paper is providing a financial incentive, because again, this would likely be low-income, working-class couples. So that financial incentive, $1,000 in the paper. In my book, I said 10 because I was feeling a little more generous. But this would be money provided by a private foundation, a third-party foundation. So this would not be government funds. Because structure it as a loan or structure it in some other way to disincentivize people to just take advantage of the money and then quickly divorce. And then you would measure outcomes at 5, 10, 15 years to see whether those couples stay together. It blends sort of the innovation in terms of the relationship education, the relationship education component, plus the monetary incentives that conservatives, I think, are more open to. And in theory, you could get some people on the center left to be open to it because they love spending money. They just don't like the idea of requiring marriage in order to do it. So that's what that idea was about. But people took it, the media, progressive media took it and said they just want to trap women in marriages and so on and so forth. So my thinking there, and this came up on the first panel, is that marriage has really cratered among low income and the working class. So if we want to see movement, we have to begin tailoring policy solutions to those particular constituencies and demographics. And right now, much of the marriage and family discourse is focused on white collar professionals. Some of it very good discourse, some of it I participated in and my colleagues. But if you go to a working class community, whether in West Baltimore, Southeast DC, or North Philadelphia, and you start talking about, trad wives and girl bosses, that's not something that those individuals are encountering. I think we have a problem in the white collar space because the messaging is very much anti-family. Sheryl Sandberg of Lean In fame has said that she wants to push back on the trad wife movement But in these working class communities, you're talking about young people who have no reason to believe that marriage should come before baby carriage because they haven't seen it in their own home, not the homes of their friends. Their elected officials don't talk about it. The church doesn't talk about it. So part of it is thinking about marriage culture the same way we think about agriculture, which is to say we have to plant, water, and give life to things that we want to grow, and we have to weed and prune things that threaten a bountiful harvest.
So you mentioned that some family policies could get support from the left or center left at least. And there's actually a big debate on the right as to what is the proper role of government on these questions. And we admit that, yes, government cannot by itself be the solution, but we can't have a solution without it. And that's a point of contention with a lot of folks. And the proposals that Heritage supports in terms of the tax credits, et cetera, for marriage and family and child care, that's less than 1% of what we spend on entitlements. Okay. That's Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. We think that that's an investment that will pay off tremendous dividends, right? Even if we just get a 10, 20% boost in the marriage rate, and that will have dramatic effects downstream. And we're talking about generations. And the analogy I want to think about is it's almost as if we're on the Titanic, and there is the iceberg, and we know that the current track we're on is going towards that iceberg. Things that need to come into play right now, and everybody needs to play a role to steer that ship. And by the way, when you steer that ship, people will be healthier, people will be happier, people will have higher incomes when it's all key to marriage, and we all need to play our role. We have time for questions. Now, please raise your hand, wait for a microphone to come to you, say your name and who you're from, and please keep your question in the form of a question. In the back, please.
Thank you. My name is Sven Larsson. I'm an economics writer for the European Conservative. I've been very much enjoying this event. One of the things I write about is the Hungarian experiment with reshaping the welfare state. There was a debate in Europe when Fidesz started where they were heavily criticized for going away from the redistributive welfare state, the one that we built. Delano, you mentioned 1965, the war on poverty started. Now, when I read your report, which I think was fascinating, very, very good, and really encouraging, I saw one step, and here's my question. Do you think it would be, this is a good time to take the next step and contrast the economic redistribution philosophy behind the war on poverty against, let me take Hungary as the contrast, a conservative welfare state that does not redistribute based on income, but has a set of benefits that encourage the formation, the growth, and the sustainability of families. Is that I don't see that philosophical discussion in your report, but I see it as the logical next step. Do you agree with that?
Can you repeat that last part? What philosophical position?
On the one hand, you have, let me frame it a little bit pointedly. The socialist idea of economic redistribution, reduce economic differences. Our welfare state is built to give benefits to lower income people so that their income is increased relative to those who make more. They're taxed with progressive taxes to finance those benefits.
So I think I have a point.
Okay.
So the socialist contrast of Europe versus America and that impact of family formation.
Well, okay. So I guess I would start to say, yeah, I mean, the way that our welfare system is set up in most welfare, right, it's to give, money to those who are low income. Now, I think really, the most practical way that we need to do that is just, I don't think that you're going to be able to just kind of completely alter the way that that's done. But I think the way that you make that, so that we're actually do is address the causes of poverty, not just the consequences, which is what Lyndon B. Johnson said in his famous War on Poverty speech. But so that we are that it's tied to work, so that we say, okay, yes, here's benefit, but you need to be working, looking for work, preparing for work, so that we are moving people, not just, we're not just giving them money, but they are moving forward. It's actually about social mobility, and then certainly not harming marriage, and then also trying to, because we have this huge mess of marital breakdown, we need to strengthen marriage so that those are, work and marriage are the greatest protectors against poverty, and they promote social mobility. So I think those are the types of policies we need.
Jay, you get privilege.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, and feel free to ask the other folks from the previous panel as well. And so on this one, I think we maybe didn't say it enough, but in the paper, we do make a key distinction, because you're exactly right. We're not proposing wealth redistribution, which is essentially, okay, these people have too much stuff, these people don't have enough, let's take some of their stuff and move it over here. Government policy and tax policy is always about things that are public goods, and those might affect different people differently. Our report, philosophically, is that family formation is a public good. It is long-term beneficial to everyone, including people that never marry. And so that's why the state has an interest in it, because you're not going to have a culture or a country if you destroy this fundamental cell of civilization, namely the family. That's the key thing, and that's what justifies the state in having an interest in it.
Wonderful. Over there, please.
Thank you very much. Actually, I came from Hungary, and I am a social policy expert with my colleague. So if I can tell you something briefly from home, I will read a little bit because my English is not as good as yours. But what is fundamental, that the family is strengthening is not just a social issue. It is more like that, especially the early childhood development, because this early 3 years is a kind of crisis. It means that if in this point the children and the whole family can get any support, the divorces and the marriage became weaker, and then the divorces number were increasingly high. Plus, if this early childhood level, the children can get the best service, their mental condition won't be healthy, which cause an unhealthy society. Second, if we would like to straighten the whole society, included the underclass social level, we have to straighten the whole family, and it will help for the ones who are not in this level. So that's why Hungary's government decided not only support the underclass social level people, but the whole family at itself. So we hope, because now we have a twin situation and a new step, we are not effectively happy everybody, but we hope the best line will stay, because as you say, without family and without working together, civil organizations like yours and like ours, Parents House Foundation, won't be any developing. So if you have any question about Hungary, I'm here to answer later.
And your name, ma'am?
Thank you.
Your name?
Yeah, my name is Judith Regős, the president of the Parents House Foundation, and I was a strategic partner of the Hungarian government in the field of family support.
Wonderful. So Hungary has put 6% of their GDP towards family policies, and we've met with Hungarian officials in development of our report. We have a whole section on Hungary, and you're right, it's not just about addressing poverty. The proposals we have address marriage, and they're tied to work. So work, family, and children all hang together right there.
Okay, thanks. My name is Daniel births on X. Some of you may follow me. But one thing I really want to talk about is the question of whether it's possible to challenge sort of the senior spending, because there's really a pull between spending on seniors and spending on young people. There was a recent thing that passed where taxes were eliminated on Social Security. There's a movement across the country to completely eliminate property taxes. Now, these are almost the only taxes that seniors pay, and that the financial picture of seniors in this country is much stronger than the financial position of young people, and almost all spending is on seniors, so it kind of squeezes out family spending. And we don't want to talk about one at the expense of the other, but it's certainly the case that taxes must be paid, and the more things are emphasized towards seniors, the heavier the burden is on young people, and the harder it is for young people to form families.
So with Social Security, when it was first devised, it was something like 27 to 22 workers per retiree. Now it's closer to 4 workers per retiree. It's going to go down to 2, and that's going to create social tension. And we do not want to see a shrinking pie and people fighting each other based on age distinctions over that pie. And what we've had a breakdown in the notion of grandparents and families being taken care of in the same household. There's a lot of, we want to talk about the role of grandparents in multi-generational households.
Yeah, absolutely. I think oftentimes there's a focus on the nuclear family unit, and obviously that's a good thing, but multi-generational sort of family policy to me is the best way to approach this, because the children learn and benefit from the age and wisdom of their grandparents, and the grandparents benefit from the youth and vigor of the grandchildren. So it's one of the things that often gets lost. Here's one of the challenges, and this is a challenge particularly, again, with respect to the more white-collar professions. The challenge is that college is typically the first life event that displaces a child from their family in the neighborhood that they grew up in. And many kids never come back. I grew up in New York. My wife is from Houston. We settled in D.C. Not having family around certainly impacted what we thought about in terms of creating a family together. I contrast that with my best friend who still lives in Brooklyn. He actually purchased a home next door to his parents. So when the police officer and his wife, who retired, moved down to Florida, and their 3 Rottweilers, he purchased that home. Him and his wife moved into that home when they got 83 minutes away driving. So it's a great family dynamic. And I'm not sure that we're willing, again, particularly in the white-collar professions and policymakers, to challenge the college or bust mindset that many of us grow up with. So I think part of it, again, is the life script that we give to young people. And the other part of it, Roger, and this goes to one of the most important things that doesn't get discussed enough about our family report, which is not just the idea of tying these benefits to marriage, but it's the timing of marriage. A lot of people talk about the success team. Get married and have children. You just rich, and we end up saying in the speech, first and it's 36 and it's 34 for a woman. Consider this, and I'll stop here. If I'm a man, I get married at 36, I have my first child at 40. I have a son. He follows in my footsteps. Married at 36, first child at 40. I become a first-time grandfather at 80 years old, which is a couple years past the average life expectancy for a man. I have, in effect, cut out an entire generation of my family. So it's harder for me to pass on those things, that's where the question started, to my grandchildren, because by the time he's ready for coach pitch baseball, they may have to wheel me into the game. So part of it is again, the foundation of marriage, the sequence, marriage before baby carriage, but also the timing. And the timing, I think, is the hardest thing to affect in public policy.
That's a question for Emma, please. In the back.
Bradley. I'm Chief of Staff for Congressman Blake Moore of Utah. We did CDC and Trump accounts and other things. With Emma, it sounds like a lot of what you all have said and what Lyman's recent Substacks have said is that this has a lot to do with casual interactions declining. People aren't meeting each other, they aren't out in the public, they're not dating. And that's where that decline from 2010 started. Maybe we can't fix the 1970s decline, but can we fix the 2010 decline where policymakers come in?
Yes, this is a really good question. So are you focusing mostly on the in marriage piece of it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is a great question. I think when it comes to this topic of federal policy, much of my thought around this comes down to different cultural and messaging conversations that we are and are not having. How are we talking about marriage? How are we talking about the importance and beauty and delight of this great adventure of marriage and having children? Are we actually diving into healthy dating practices and creating environments that are phone-free or phone-reduced where people can actually look each other in the eye and get to know one another? But when it comes to federal policy, I do think that there are things that we can and should consider along these lines, whether that is thinking about new pathways such as like apprenticeship options for entering adulthood and finding sustainable employment that doesn't necessarily require a college degree as the entry point. So it's a huge way that you actually set people up for success both in their jobs and in their careers, but also in their relationships, right? Because marriageable men is a huge part of the discussion, which means we need to open more pathways to support and encourage that. I also think that there's the aspect beyond the marriageable men side of things, there's also the question of how are we thinking through remote and contract work in particular. So something that we talk about in the family policy paper is reducing unnecessary red tape in the United States, which is in many cases actually taking advantage of, but also some children, rethinking access and affordability homes, and policy to really set success on the front end so that home ownership, which is a big piece of feeling like you're an adult and feeling like you're ready to have children, isn't an unnecessary barrier. I think we've all seen the studies of like in, what was it, like 1970, women were married, had a kid, and had a house by age 30. And today that's like 12% of 30-year-olds are married, have a kid, and own a house. And my husband and I are married and have children, and we're not quite 30, but we're gonna have to work really hard to actually buy a house by the time we turn 30. And part of it's just that the affordability question of what is a good investment and what's actually available to us is really, really difficult to navigate. And we are certainly far from the only people who are in that particular situation.
Question for you, Emma. If there were nest accounts waiting for you at, say, $35,000 for you, would that help you buy a home?
I'd go a very long way in getting us a great home, yes.
Final question. That way.
Could we set a policy for the federal government and the state government only hire employees with a child? And also for the universities, they only admit the PhD and master's degree student with a child. Could we do that?
Well, that would define the success sequence, right? So the success sequence begins with graduating high school, getting a job, and then getting married and having kids. But I do think there's probably a lot of fun conversations to have about how do we create environments, whether it's in higher education or in the work environment, that actually support people having babies. And like, I'm pregnant with my third daughter, and I've been at Heritage for 4 years, and I can say without a doubt, Heritage has created an environment that makes having children one of the greatest and easiest decisions for my husband and I to make, because we never have to ask, is my job or is my education at odds with my desire to have a family? But that, oh, I'm going to tell my vice president that I'm having a baby and he's going to be so work-wise to do that. And so I think really the question here is, how do we structure our business and our education around the goodness of the family and supporting that in all of the big and small ways that really count?
That's a wonderful way to end. So thank our panelists, Delano, Rachel, Emma. We are approaching the end. You guys can step off. We're approaching the end of our programming. And before we dismiss you to lunch, I'm going to bring up Carrie Lancaster, Senior Associate of Outreach, to talk about the Family First Initiative. Carrie.
Thank you, Roger, and hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Lancaster, and I'm on the outreach team here at the Heritage Foundation. I'd like to just give you a quick update on a new effort we're launching today called the Family First Initiative. Some of you might be familiar with the Parental Rights Initiative, which we launched about a year ago. The Family First Initiative builds on that foundation and is an expansion of our work to address the full range of issues impacting families today, whether it be in education, health, culture, or the economy. Our goal is to ensure that families have the resources and support necessary to protect their fundamental rights and truly flourish. This initiative is also an opportunity for partnership. So we'd love to elevate and help amplify the work that you and your wonderful organizations are doing. So if you're interested in learning more or interested in collaborating with us on this opportunity, please come talk to me after this or grab one of the palm cards that we have out on the registration desks. There's QR codes to our website and our newsletter that we're launching. Thank you, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the summit.
Let's eat. That closes the event. Thank you all for coming. This is fantastic.
TC, what are your thoughts? Anthony? Maybe TC's away from his phone. Sounds like he is. If anybody wants to come up and discuss anything that was spoke on the panel, more than welcome to. Waiting for TC to get back to his phone. Don't know if Anthony is still with us.
I guess the event is over. Just got anything you heard. I have some thoughts, but I'm just wrapping up here, so feel free to chime in.
Sorry, TC, you're back. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So what were your thoughts?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, listen, guys, this was a great event. I'm going to be honest with you. Some of you guys know what I do. Some of you guys don't know what I do. My company does a lot with weddings. And hearing Saquon, not Saquon, I forgot the guy's name, the black guy, his idea about marriage boot camp.
I love that. I love that shit. I was intrigued by that.
I'm leading a program within my company, and I'll be going down to DC to meet with these guys soon. I'll set up the meet with these guys soon, because I would love nothing more than my company to partner with the Heritage Foundation in providing.
Let's go taste it.
Especially Philadelphia, because we have a lot of venues in Philadelphia, in Philly.
You're going in and out. I think you're in between the matrix. So say that again. What about Philadelphia? Still can't hear you, hon. Yeah, I think you're trapped in the matrix.
Here. No, but what I was saying was, effectively what we could do is create, like, in partnership with the Heritage Foundation, give young people that are looking to get married, give them some sort of support for their wedding. When they go down the aisle, they complete this boot camp program, what have you. They qualify for maybe $10 matching grant. He didn't suggest a matching grant. I would suggest a matching grant because I know what the costs are for weddings and young couples getting married, and it's extremely cost prohibitive for young couples to get married. And that's one of the reasons why they push marriage off, is because it's so unaffordable. What we could effectively do is create an incentive for them to complete this marriage boot camp, to do a matching grant with them that offsets a percentage of their wedding costs, so that that's absorbed by whatever this grant is. And then my company network with multiple wedding venues, multiple civic organizations, religious organizations, to help to facilitate these weddings, which is really the start of marriage. You cannot have marriage without a wedding. And most people that want to get married, they're dreaming about how their wedding would be. And when they dream about it and what they want to have, and basically what they can't afford, it creates a disincentive for them to move in that direction. And so to alleviate that constraint on the opportunity to have or to start a marriage would be, I think, exponential in terms of addressing some of these issues that they're trying to address within the Heritage Foundation. So this is one of my thoughts, just from my lens.
And that was I think that was such an excellent innovation idea that was brought to the platform. And I also, what I actually thought is, how can that be turned into, or how can maybe 501c3s contribute to that incentive in any which way? Like you mentioned, venues, like perhaps there's venues, or there's a package or something that, of a whole bunch of different entities that can collaborate to, kind of gift this, this wedding opportunity. And also it'd be a benefit for the businesses that are, that are participating in this. Maybe there's, so many weddings that are afforded a year through, this package program where maybe the first 100, weddings a year are kind of gifted to people. And then, there's other means, like what you said, to like match them, other matching opportunities, after the 100.
Well, Angel, it's funny that you mentioned that. Don't you know that the Jews already do this?
I know. I was gonna say my people is already on it. I see it every day in the community. As I was dropping my kids off to school today, I was thinking, you know what? Because when you drive down the street, everybody has a Honda Odyssey, and they're all in the line dropping their kids off to school. And I'm like, I wonder if that's part of the wedding package. Like you get, the house, the car, and and everything else that kind of goes along with getting married, the incentive. But yeah, you are absolutely right. My people are already on top of it.
There's this program in the Jewish community called Takanon. I think it's Takanon. I want to get normal. Talk about it. But basically, what it is you go through the program in the Jewish community at the synagogue.
Yep.
They will write off up to $10,000 of your wedding. They'll write it off and charge it to the community or whatever.
Exactly, and that's what I said. If building a foundation for, and I don't want to say young people, right? Because I heard when they were talking about the concept of getting the quote unquote youth eager to want to participate in getting married is where I guess the biggest challenge is. I love the example that he gave. He was like, if I'm to go off of by what people's concepts are in this modern time now, I'd have my first child get married at 39. I'd have my first child at 40. That means that by the time, and if my son followed the same thing, by the time I get a chance to throw my first baseball to my grandchild, I'll be 80 years old. I love that concept because that's the truth. Looking into what. And I love the fact that the program didn't just highlight the fact that here's the bonus, here we'll pay for your wedding, but it talked about some core values in regards to how to nurture the relationship. And I love hearing that because there's so many times where you see, and I love the demographics that they put on the table too, where people are cohabiting, right? But there are maybe a party in that cohabiting scenario is not really equipped for the relationship. They don't understand the financial barriers, or they're not willing to face the financial barriers, and they depend on the government wholeheartedly for support. And so I love the fact that there's an opportunity being at least discussed. Where like-minded people are coming together to say, hey, how can we not just incentivize people to get married, but have them learn how to nurture their relationships so that there can be long-standing relationships and sustainability.
That's probably one of the biggest challenges that young people, especially in the Black community, face is there's not a robust value system around marriage. There's not a robust value system around building generational wealth through the lens of, compounding wealth through the generations. He talked about the grandparents leaving, moving down to Florida, the son moving into the parents' home, and then them moving into his siblings moving into their old home. That is a great example of how just realigning interests and realigning values to focus on what is that core institution that will help revitalize the dilapidated economic position that far too many Black Americans are in. It's addressing what was instituted in 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
This war on poverty approach, which created deleterious effects on the Black family, and it contributed to the man being removed from head of household to the government being placed as head of household. So I love that comparison. Mm-hmm. That's so appropriate that we're having this conversation around America 250 year anniversary of America, because they're asking the question and provoking the thought, what does the next 250 years look like for America if we're not even producing children enough to replace us? They said the average replacement number per woman should be 2.1 kids. Right now we're at 1.6. It's even worse in the Black community. They talk about how, I think Delano said, a little over 70% of kids are born into non-wedlock households.
Single family households, yeah, absolutely. And non-wedlock, yes.
70%, I'll check that number, but it's still extremely too high. Kids are being, and that itself contributes to poverty.
Exactly. Crime, poverty, there being a lack of fundamental education. There's and I love that they talked about children who grow up in single family households are more than likely to, not finish school and unfortunately deal with impoverishment, and also not have just the basic toolbox on how to shuffle through the earlier years of life, let alone take on a relationship.
You guys want to come on stage, talk about what you heard? Welcome. The stage is open. Anthony, any thoughts, bro?
He might be away from his phone. I called on him earlier, so I'm not certain if he's still in the space. But I wanted to say this really quick before I go on you. There was this idea or this example that he gave in regards to agriculture. I don't know if you heard it in detail, but he indicated that we should be kind of treating our youth, and their engagements into marriage just like how you would agriculture, and just like how you would teach someone how to sow a seed and harvest prepare for the harvest and everything. And I really genuinely loved the example, because as we are also dealing with lower rates of children in this modern day, we are also dealing with a major severe impact to our agriculture, and even knowing the fundamentals of how to do basic things like hunt, fish, and gather.
Those are concepts. So there's this idea that they were talking about in terms of the fertility replacement number that I brought up a minute ago, and addressing some policy, or having some policies that can address that fertility replacement number. And he talked about one of the questions came up, and I don't think the panelist was able to grasp the question because it was very detailed.
Mm-hmm.
But he was asking about how the left and socialism have created wealth.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
How this could potentially lead to a potentially conservative approach to the welfare state. And I don't know if the panelists properly addressed that issue, but suggesting that this is another type of wealth redistribution, because we're asking government to allocate its resources towards addressing a social and cultural problem. And so I would love to just be able to respond to that and say that this is not, well, I think one of the panelists did address it later on, but this is not a purely cultural, social issue. It is a part of the common good for the nation, is to have strong families, because those strong families contribute to the GDP.
Very much so. And we see it. I mean, and the facts are there. And I think, turning a blind eye to the facts is where the problem is. Again, I love that this is being brought onto a public panel. I love that people are able to, kind of dive into the innovative thoughts that have surrounded this, but also too, in spaces like this, where rooms like this have held 300, 400, 500,000 people at a time. As you can see, it's not a very popular topic. And I think that's because there's a lot of truths to kind of have to face. But yeah.
We've got to create incentivization over family. This is a good conversation to start it. I promise you, once the conversation goes to money and government policy turns towards how people can effectively monetize their their relationships and locking that into a wedding and a commitment that has deferred gains for that institution, the conversation in the value system will shift. I just hope we can be at the beginning of it potentially for the Black community. It's not lost on me that a very big emphasis that's driving this is the Black family, because unfortunately the numbers that Delano gave, it's like there's a 70-point swing between
detrimental swing.
It's crazy. So I think once we wrap our heads around getting the bag is not just like trying to get the quickest way or find the quickest way to, to make the buck, but it's actually rooted in having a sustainable model that can create exponential wealth creation within your family unit and your kids' family unit. The problem is that we value the very short term financial gain. And that's what looked flashy to us. Family, for far too long in our community, has not been celebrated. It's been ostracized. And the reason why it's been ostracized is because of the modern feminist movement that's delegitimized the proper role of the man in the household. Look at what feminism has done to masculinity in the household.
I agree.
Which is anti-reproductive, which is anti-nuclear family. And so, of course, you're going to get these type of numbers, and you're going to see that the outcomes of those numbers and the diminishing returns for the family unit, because there's been such a concerted effort by the feminist agenda to delegitimize the strong family unit, which relies on the man being the head of the household, which relies on a traditional, and it's not, everybody's not going to be the same, right? So the traditional family for John is not going to be the same traditional family for, Jake. But it certainly can look like having a cohesive unit that is strong at its foundation and doesn't put all the burden on one person to sustain the family and force them to rely on the government to pay the bills, to extend the lifestyle, right? People want to look at their future in the next 5 to 10 years, and they want to see a bright future. And if that doesn't include, some degree of your family expenses being covered, then you're looking for sources to help you with that. And if the government is handing out free money, but we got to make sure that your income is capped at $30,000, because if you make more than $30,000, you don't qualify for these programs that can give you that freedom. You're creating a disincentivization for financial well-being and financial independence.
And you're forcing people to remain within a tax bracket that is overall detrimental as the economy does shape and grow in future generations to come. I wanted to briefly pivot really quick, and then Black, I see that you're on stage. Thanks for coming up. So they mentioned something in regards to there being, sorry, I got a phone call. They mentioned something in regards to there being a question on should we bring in more foreigners, right? I mean, I really wanted them to engage in kind of, just speculating on what that would look like. I would personally have to give an opinion in regards to absolutely no. Absolutely not. In fact, double down on deportation, because what we're seeing, especially in the Black communities, is you have some kind of the same, and I love that you're talking about this isn't just a cultural thing, but we're seeing foreigners who are coming in, utilizing the opportunity to have a child within America to be able to kind of quote unquote remain here, but also then having the audacity to rely upon the government, not take on opportunities of getting their citizenships and things like that in order to be able to be properly, married, or even some of them, and I know it's, some of them are, utilizing that marriage pathway as well, but many of them are not. And when we at those statistics and kind of see, okay, how many foreigners do we see that are coming in on the the marriage opportunities, or how many do we see that are able to remain here because they have children here? But I just want to say that I'm not, opposed to learning there. Come up here. Hold on. Let me make that. I see you. I got you. Chris, I was just saying that. I was just saying deportation.
Deportation? Why? To who?
You missed the conversation. But yeah, TC, I wanted them to kind of elaborate a bit more in regards to that, because there are some hard truths in our reality in this modern day that don't play a role in benefiting America with more foreigners in our nation. Hey, Black.
Yep. I just wanted to sort of weigh into this high level topic, and to be honest, I've only been here for maybe, 10 minutes. But saving America by saving the family, I don't know, is this sort of tailored to sort of a black lens, or are we just talking about Americans in general, whether it's Asian Americans, Latinos, blacks, whites? Because I'm really only here to contribute to the conversation and the discourse through the lens of saving Black America.
The conversation centered around, and just as a reset for everybody that's in the room, the conversation centered around the Heritage Foundation put out a report earlier in the year, which is their new inaugural push towards effectively saving the family. And the premise behind it is that the fertility replacement rate of humans in America, in order to properly replace the previous generation, it should be for every one woman, there should be 2.1 children. Right now, there's 1.6, which if you follow that trend for the next 250 years, you're looking at a complete extinction of the American family. He's mentioned something to the tune of over 60 counties in the United States have more deaths than they have births. 60 counties. Back in 2006, it was only 20 counties, and now it's at 60 counties. And so, effectively, you're looking down the barrel of a gun that's about to go off, but it's a slow drip because you're dying off. Your posterity is dying off because of not enough birth rates.
And so, quick question again, TC, are you looking at it through the lens of American citizens, or are you looking at it through the lens of the Black American community? Because I think that those are two very distinct populations that require two distinct solutions to solve. So I guess that's my question. Are you looking at it from an American, citizenship standpoint, where we're looking at, population numbers from white people, Latinos, Black people, Asians, or is the conversation a bit more tailored to sort of population growth or lack thereof of sort of the Black population? And regardless of what your answer is, I'd like to sort of look at it through the lens of sort of the Black American population, but I'll let you go first.
In particular, what I said was the two are inextricably linked, I think, but there's definitely a bigger emphasis on the Black family because it has a disproportionate contribution to the fatherlessness homes of the American family, and that in and of itself is one of the highest indicators of poverty. So if you want to talk about Black families, go right ahead. This is an open conversation. Nobody's going to be chastised for talking about any specific.
Yep. So I'd love your thoughts on this, TC, because I don't hear it talked at all about on this on this platform. But I personally believe that Black Americans, those that are descendants of, chattel slavery, those that were here before the formation of America as a country, I personally think that we've been going through an ethnic cleansing. That's a modern ethnic cleansing that we don't typically think of when it comes to ethnic cleansing. When we see the barbarism and the barbaricness of how, ethnic cleansing has traditionally been viewed, through like the Holocaust and, sort of tribal wars in the Congo and things like that. But I think that the West has been very smart in modernizing the erasure and the cleansing of specific ethnic groups, particularly America, which in my opinion has been driven by white liberals. And that ethnic cleansing, in my opinion, that's been occurring for decades in America has been several factors. Abortion. As much as abortion has been sold to America and specifically within the Black community as a woman's right to choose, it's been it's been a tool of white liberals to target specifically poor Black communities, to ethnically cleanse this country of birth growth, where that particular demographic is essentially been eradicated for the most part. The second form of ethnic cleansing that I think that white liberals have orchestrated in this country has been the proliferation of drugs within urban inner cities. That's another form of ethnic cleansing. The third form of ethnic cleansing is, in my opinion, is what do you call it? Gentrification. When you look at who's gentrifying and weaponizing their wealth to displace Black people within our major cities, whether it's Chicago, Atlanta, DC, it's white liberals, who are literally, gentrifying these neighborhoods and communities, Black communities, because of their wealth and displacing them. I could go on and on about it, but ultimately, we really have to take a real close look at, population numbers and how ethnic cleansing, at least based on those three measures that I shared, that have been driven by white liberals to eradicate and ethnically cleanse the native Black American population. And conversely, that's why white liberals are so aggressive about replacing that population through voting power with illegal immigrants from South and Central America, from the Caribbean, and from Africa. And so I just don't understand why, Black people don't really understand that. It's very clear and deliberate to me. But it's clear that white liberals, who in my opinion are just really the left wing of white supremacy, have been behind the ethnic cleansing of the native Black American population, and why they're so aggressive about replacing that population through these open border policies with sanctuary cities and sort of this propaganda around abolishing ICE and sort of demonizing our immigration policies because they're really aligned, in my opinion, with the right, where this specific group of black people represent America's biggest sin, which is slavery. And so the quicker that they can eradicate that population and replace them with people that can't call them out on the history of slavery and Jim Crow, that's why I think that like white liberals and the Democrats are far more dangerous, to the black, indigenous, American Native population. So hopefully that made sense.
I'm surprised I didn't hear you touch on abortion, because I think that's probably one of the greatest examples of...
That was one of the first things I touched on. I spoke at length about abortion.
Maybe I missed it.
Yeah, you missed it.
Yeah,
that was actually one of my first points about ethnic cleansing is, while abortion has been sold as a woman's right to choose, insidiously it's been really weaponized to eradicate the Native Black American population in America.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't know if I would agree with every characterization you made, but I think definitely there are examples that you could point to where there's demonstrative efforts to eradicate the black population. I think abortion is a great example. Going back to the immigration conversation that Angel was having a minute ago, there are two distinct approaches. I think both the left and the right in America understand that our population decrease has to be addressed, that the decline in workers, decline in the labor base in this country, along with the import of other countries, other nations, and them driving emphasis on their populations and how that supports their manufacturing base, their labor base in their country. It kind of puts the light on how the right are starting to look at this problem from two completely different angles and how they attempt to address it. It's important to understand that the left totally understands that population decrease is a national security issue for America. And so the way they address it through their lens is wide-scale, large-scale importation of immigrant populations through non-legal means and methods, and protecting those groups of people, these large groups of immigrants that are coming here through non-legal methods, protecting those methods, providing as much buffer as they possibly can to prevent the government from enforcing laws that tamp down on illegal immigration. That's their approach from the left. And what I'm starting to see from the right becoming more crystallized is the approach is focusing, going back to emphasizing the necessity for the family unit and for the families to have kids. And for those kids to be born into a healthy environment where they can thrive and they can have kids, and increasing that childbearing rate. They talked about the founders. On average, the founders had 6 kids. Today it's down to 1.6. So those are two completely different approaches to the same problem of addressing a declining population in this country. And I know, and many people do know, that the left thrives on an environment in which they can coalesce power and create silos where they have the dominant influence in society. The only way you can do that is to de-emphasize and delegitimize the sovereignty, the individual sovereignty of the family unit. If you can create and aggregate communities around a dogma and an agenda that is anti-traditional family, that is anti-individual security, and pro-collectivism, that gives more power to the top and redistributes the wealth that's generated by the individual towards the collective, That's how they gain and maintain power. That's their approach.
Hey, real
The
quick,
conservative approach is very different from that.
real
The
quick,
conservative
TC.
approach requires, hold on one second. The conservative approach requires for there to be an emphasis on what the actual building blocks of a dominant society is, and that is a healthy, growing, safe family unit. And you build upon that. That is what creates economic opportunity. That's what creates educational attainment. That is what creates, healthy living and positive body, just a positive, healthy environment altogether. So it's just two starkly different approaches, but one requires the dismantling of the family, the other requires the establishment and the protection of the family.
So let me ask you this quick question, TC, and it's around population. Because I don't know, it seems as if people think that a growing population.
Welcome to the stage.
Yeah, let me just finish. It just sort of based on at least what I'm hearing from you is that you think that a growing population is necessary for a nation like America to survive and advance. And I sort of push back on that because on one hand, I think that maybe that was maybe true prior to the information age, where you needed really hands-on labor, both physical and intellectual labor, to sort of grow GDP and to advance, into new markets. But I don't know that that's really true now with the advances of robotics and AI. In my opinion, I think that a highly populated nation like America is at a disadvantage with having more people, given not only the current position of AI and robotics, but also projecting that in the future, that I think that America is actually better off with a leaner population where robotics and AI can actually supplement sort of where we needed in the past physical labor and people to do sort of roles and jobs that are quickly not only being replaced now, but are ultimately going to diminish the role of human capital in the future. And I guess that's my question. I just don't think that population is really important in this modern age of technology. I think that America's better off with a leaner, a number of people versus an abundance of sort of citizens or illegals, if that makes sense.
Well, again, you look at the trajectory, you look at the trend. The less kids you have, the less of a population you have to leverage the powers and the enterprise of the country, and so that gets outsourced to other players that are able to benefit from those systems. And I just think it's just a very non-sustainable way of looking at society, is that we need to have less kids, not more, because the law of subtraction is going to leave you with zero. So I just don't see how that's sustainable. That's number one. Number two, it lends itself to a type of society that's susceptible to egalitarian oligarchy, in which it's ruled by a few technocrats that are able to effectively lord over the population and create systems and policies that effectively create wealth, which is not the job of the government in the first place, which is why we're having a policy conversation about whether the government should have any involvement in incentivizing population changes. It should be towards growing population and not reducing population. You would effectively create an environment where government gets to dictate how the wealth of the common is distributed. It's no longer generated by the population. It's not individually incentivized. It's now governmentally incentivized. And now, instead of us having a popular sovereignty, we have a government-mandated sovereignty, which creates tyranny.
Good morning. I shared in the chat a link to the Sound of Hope movie, the story of Possum Trot. I'm not aware of how many people know about it. It's from Angel Studios. It's a great movie.
I'm not familiar with that. What's the storyline? Don't give away the ending, but maybe what's the plot?
This whole town adopts every single available foster child and adopts them, like takes them in, not just temporarily, makes a commitment to them to keep them. It's quite remarkable. And the town was not wealthy. They were poor, in humble circumstances with limited resources, and they just used every bit of what they were given and paid it forward in the most remarkable way. It's quite humbling.
And this is based off of a true story?
Yes.
I was literally asking that because I got a call.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
So it kind of correlates with the room that you're doing, TC, with the family being the most important set of Americans. I quite liked it. Angel, if you watched the movie, please let me know your thoughts.
Absolutely. I just copy pasted your message and I texted to myself. I will be watching this for sure. I can't wait to give you feedback on this.
Oh, very good.
I grew up in the foster care system from 4 to 19. So,
and then after 19, you're on your own, and their resource. You can speak on it more than I, but I understand that you're definitely fending for yourself, and they might have not prepared you to do so. Is that fair to say, or did you have a good program that launched?
I actually was part of Pennsylvania's Kids for Cash scandal, and so my authorities, I'll say, were actually receiving kickbacks for placing me in and out of placements, detention centers, group homes, foster cares, and so on and so forth.
So they would remove you from a stable, loving foster care family into a different family so they could collect a transfer fee. Is that right? Did I understand?
They moved me from a foster care unit to place me into one of their detention centers where they received kickback. And then I'd remain there for some time, and then they replaced me again, and then they replaced me again. And each time they replaced me, they replaced me to a group home or a detention center or one of their facilities, they would receive a kickback. It's actually, they made a movie about it. It's called Kids for Cash. It unfortunately does not portray the Black and brown lives that were heavily impacted. If you take a look at the statistics, there were more Black and brown children who were impacted by this Kids for Cash scandal than there were those that they represented. Even at the base front of this, on a lot of the political streams, they really only depict a certain type of child. And so, unfortunately, it didn't get the light that it deserved. And still, some of those who were impacted at an early age. So I'll give you an example. There was a time in the federal court where we were actually sitting there watching, I guess, a Zoom conference with a couple of the individuals who were named in this scandal. who are now adults, and they were still incarcerated, and many of them had been in and out of incarceration since maybe, I think the one young man, since 11 years old. I have a step sibling who, same thing, since 9 years of age, he's been in and out of incarceration, and still remains there to this day. But they didn't really, now I myself was one of the people who didn't have any family. I was fostered, so I'll say I was a more easy turnover for them, because I didn't really have family who, wanted me back or was looking for me. And I actually ended up being one of out of the 2,600 that were listed, I ended up being one of the ones that has the greater damages in compensation, and I'll never be able to see that money be sent to me, and that's not even in punitive damages. But yeah, it's still an ongoing thing on the low. I think there's a lot of I'll say household conversations that people are enraged about it. A lot of the things that I have pointed out were the people who were involved that actually did not receive any consequences. So that would be the children and youth system. Also, too, a lot of the children who were a part of this were also ones with IEPs. I found that to be very interesting. So again, it's crazy, but I love that you dropped that. I know that's gonna make me cry, so I'm gonna put myself on the schedule here to watch that and give you some feedback.
So I actually found the documentary that you spoke about. I think it's 12 or 13 years old.
Yes, exactly.
So the full video is available. Documentary is available on YouTube. The link, the trailer I posted first, and then the second link is the documentary. And Angel, amazing life story. You're incredibly resilient, and I'm so glad you're thriving now despite that difficult childhood.
You know what? I appreciate that acknowledgement. One of the things that I didn't realize through this is that I survived something that many did not. I think one of the reasons why this did come to the forefront is because of a mother who lost her son due to suicide after being detained into one of the most heinous male facilities known as Glen Mills. And he underwent a series of horrific abuses. And unfortunately, what I was really pained by is this whole prosecution process, that we have here in the United States. I'm very proud to be an American, but I also watched a federal court proceeding not take on all people who were responsible. They only hit, a couple people upside their head, and they heavied down the consequences on two men, two of the juvenile judges, Mr. Chivarella and Mr. Conahan. Mr. Conahan is now out of prison. He did not complete his full sentence. He was gifted some leniency due to COVID. Mr. Chivarella still remains in prison and is working, towards his completion of 27 years. But my concern is, what about all the staff who were responsible for abusing us and who were responsible for the overall mental, and emotional and physical detriments that they posed onto a lot of these young men and women, young boys and girls, I'll say. We didn't see that. And so that is something that everybody now in Pennsylvania kind of just, I guess it's just something that they think they could put on the back burner, but there's people like myself who still talk about it. And I'm always looking for people who, have been a part of this or who have family members who, still want to tell their story. Because I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary for them to get the people who are responsible, because now many of them may have transitioned into another group home or to another detention center or into another field or line of work, and who knows what they're doing. So,
Angel, I would love to, why don't we do this? I'm gonna hit you in the back chat, because I have a studio here, not too far out of Philadelphia, New Jersey, that is it's a podcast studio, and I want to do some content around family. I want to do content around policy and business. Would love to have you join me. So, if that's something you're
they would love Easter on there.
So TC, let me tell you
about they would love her on there, Easter. Is her name.
Yeah, I think it would be great. She brings a really unique perspective, and not too many Black women are conservative. It's really hard to find, because it's damn near impossible to find conservative Black women. So,
it's because they're busy holding down their lives, like living their words. So they're kind of busy.
Well, there's actually a report that just came out, Monica. I don't know if you knew about it, but there's a report that just came out on CNN. It came out today, that they're finding that there's been a dramatic shift from Black people towards conservatism. As a matter of fact, they're finding, CNN came out with this report today, literally today. They're finding that in the midterms, the polling is finding a dramatic decrease in Black voters that will be voting for the Democratic Party, and they are entertaining the Republican Party. So there's a massive shift that's underway. Philadelphia has one of the largest Black population. No, it has the largest Black population in the state. So I just think this is a very unique time, and I think the stars are aligning with what's going on with the Heritage Foundation and trends in policy, potential business opportunities. I think the stars are starting to align. So this is interesting.
So let me tell you, I have someone for you to consider to see if they would be a good fit. I don't even know if he's available, but I've actually interviewed him a couple times from Clubhouse. His name is John Finch. He has a documentary called The Father Effect, and he talks about how important it is that dads play a part of their children's lives, and the statistics are grim when there are absent dads. His father killed himself when John was 13, and so he grew up with what he calls a father wound. And he interviews people who are in prison, talking about how the gang became their family and they had their role models from street culture, and how it didn't work out well for them, and the girls who don't have a father to teach them how to value themselves will look for male approval in wrong places, and early promiscuity, teenage pregnancies, drug addiction, sexual exploitation. It's a very good documentary. I'm going to put it in the chat, even if you never talked to John Finch. I think it's worth knowing about.
Where is he located?
I'm not sure. Texas, maybe. It's been a couple years. I used to bring him to Clubhouse for Father's Day. I've had a couple of interviews with him on the app.
I had the pleasure of speaking with John I'm going to say maybe like a year or so ago. I haven't seen him on here that much since our last conversation, but I think he was housing a room similar to this, where he was just kind of letting something play, and then just getting feedback on it. But I haven't seen him in a while, so it's a familiar name to me.
Yeah, Monica, put the link in the chat so I can follow all that up. This guy is, but it sounds interesting. Sweet. All right, guys.
This is a great space, TC. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll address your back chat.
Yeah, my phone has been blowing up, and I've been canceling all these calls so I can manage this conversation. But the replays are on, which is great. We're going to come back and reference this conversation. I want to have a conversation with the Heritage Foundation and see where that takes me, because if there's some alignment here, as particularly addressing issues related to Black family, I'm all in. So we'll see what happens, and I'll bring more of these conversations to this platform and see where it goes. But thank you guys for joining me today. I hope everybody has a great day. We'll talk again soon.
Later.
Related to Morocco, I would not.
No, Morocco isn't from this land. Morocco is from Morocco. Moroccans is from Morocco. So
you don't have no sources. So much.
You don't have any sources to say America is Morocco, right?
No, not one.
We do.
No, I'm asking Alexandria if you got sources that you could prove to say America.
We
like
do.
North America is Morocco. Let's see them.
We do have. There's millions of people who identify as Moroccan Americans and they're called Moorish. You can search about that. They're in the U.S.
Well, post the source. I asked you to post a source that says that North America was Morocco.
I'm answering you. I'm really.
I don't need you to tell me anything. I need you to post a source. Since you got so many, post one or two sources, primary sources if possible.
And this is, by the way, does not devaluate the people who are there, because I believe genuinely people who went to the U.S. before the Spanish coast there never ever come back to Morocco. The strongest Moroccan who come over there before Columbus, for us, of course, we believe that Columbus was one of the people who discovered there because of the Spanish influence, and we cannot deny that because we're next to Spain. We're literally 8 kilometers away from them, so it's pretty hard to just, ignore that fact. The best documented early Moroccan in America was Mustafa Azambouri, and who also called he had some Spanish names, and he was from Azambour's town in Morocco.
He was leaking information. My bad.
I don't know what he said.
Dopamine asked you for some information.
Okay.
You kind of went away from it.
No, not way.
They might. I just looked it up, and that's the answer it gave me in the room chat. And it also says, well, there are strong, well-documented historical ties between the United States and Morocco. Claims that North America was historically Morocco or any extension of the Moroccan Empire appeared to be on alternative narratives, often cited by more sovereign citizen groups and then recognized history evidence. And that's where you said you got the information from. Moroccan society groups, but no historical evidence says that this is even real.
You can search about this. I'm going to give you. It's the best documented one.
What documented history do you have?
You can search about it.
No, what's the name of it? What's the name of the document you're stating?
It sound like y'all melanated people sold us melanated people out to the white man. That's what it sounds like to me. It don't sound nothing else, but these melanated people was in the Americas first, and they had it going on. And these haters came over here, got jealous. They want to be like us. And y'all wouldn't try to go against the program, against us. I'm going to tell you, man, I would guarantee you this.
That's working history.
when the shit hit the fan, and the shit is going to hit them. You better be aware of your lifestyle and the way you represent yourself, because we're not going to be taking that shit right here in our country in a little bit. In a little bit, this country is going to go back to the original abinated people that's here. That's our land. Before y'all came along and the white man came along and tried to take our land from us. Guaranteed.
By the way, we were not white. We were not white, by the way.
No, you were with the white man against us.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, it is.
We were earlier.
Yes,
we were earlier than the white men. We were here.
I know that.
Before white man comes over.
Y'all was out there, came over here to my land. And it wasn't a lot of y'all. And then when the white man came along here, y'all decided to go against us for the white man. We allowed y'all to come to our. We allowed y'all to come to our country.
Dude, they come to our country as well.
Y'all took a boat to get over here. We don't take boats to go nowhere. You know why? Because this is our land.
Power.
Because this is our land. No, this is our land.
Listen,
like you can claim, listen, like you can claim your land, as being Morocco. That's what you're doing. Why can't I claim my land as being America? I'm asking a simple question. I'm asking a simple question. Since you have the ability to name a part of Morocco, why don't I have the same to name myself in America?
It looked like the Pantheon wins because I just took the information you put in the room chat and I looked it up to see if that information actually means North America was Morocco or the Moroccan Empire, and it said no. So to say no, the specific quote does not indicate that America is Morocco or Moroccan Empire. The quote describes a historical fact about an individual, not a territorial claim.
He did it to claim. Now, I gotta ask you to do something if you're really interested about that. You can go to find any Moorish spot close to you, and you will probably find one where Moorish people gather, and you will ask
them. In the room chat. No. I don't need to ask no niggas shit. Because a lot of these illiterate ass niggas,
they are not.
A lot of these illiterate ones, they ain't even understand when words are being said.
Moroccan citizens.
I don't care what you call them. I'ma call them niggas because they don't read and comprehend shit, and they don't know what the fuck they be talking about. Just like you.
Disrespectful conversation.
You don't know what you're talking about. I looked up what you, and it said it's not saying America is Morocco or the Moroccan Empire. And what I'm putting in the room chat is the breakdown of it, or how it's not Morocco. So I hope you read it instead of just talking.
The Moroccan explorers come over before the Spanish ones. You were not there. Any one of you.
I don't have to be there. Nobody don't have to be there.
History was there.
Moroccan explorers coming to America don't mean America is Morocco, stupid.
Oh, so Spanish comes over, that means it's Spanish, right? Wow.
I guess if a Spaniard comes to America, it makes America Spain? What the fuck are you talking about?
So why it was falling under Spanish control?
I don't give a fuck. Because somebody comes and visits.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
So somewhere where somebody visits a land doesn't make it their land that they're from, stupid. I don't give a fuck if 2,000 Africans travel to America. That don't make America Africa, stupid.
Africa? Bro, there's nothing even called Africa back then.
I wouldn't care if they called it Al-Kibalan. It don't make America you, Milan. The fuck you talking about? What you talking about? If a polar bear come to America, I guess this polar bear land. This North America, this North Pole on Antarctica, because a polar bear came over this bitch on a boat.
We arrived in the United States before the Spanish people.
Who cares? Is America Morocco? Do you got any identification, any kind of treaties, any kind of historical record that says America is Morocco?
Over, there were a partial control and partial influence places until today. Go to some towns, they're even called Morocco. If you ask them, they'll tell you.
Give me a source.
Place.
Give me a source, man. Let us read this shit. We're gonna try one more time.
I've been listening to him, Big Dog, and I don't even know if he's even melanated.
I don't care. Anybody can come speak in here. Pink, brown, white, pale, green, purple, blue.
I'm with that.
Shit don't matter.
For someone to exposing themselves to be.
I would love a Caucasian. I don't care if they got a fucking mallet in their hand. If a Caucasian could come in here, give information, give sources to back the information up, and it can be verified, that's better than anybody else of any other nationality that can come in here and talk but can't verify what they talking about. And if you read what they trying to put that as a source and it says something totally different from what they're suggesting, that means they don't even understand their own source.
And you should understand that what you see is what for you, and what I see is what for me. It's very normal that Google.
Oh, so this is like the Bible. It can be interpreted different ways then.
I want to know all this talk about documentation. Has it been documented that America is, or what we today call America, is really the Kingdom of Morocco? Has that been documented?
That's what the question is on the floor right now. That's what we trying to find out.
When I come in here and I start talking about my things, people scrutinize me. I put papers in the chat. I send links. I send DMs. I haven't received responses to people who are asking me, but I send them DMs. So all this stuff about me, I want to see the documentation. How is America really Morocco?
It was partially Morocco because of the citizen invasions that were going there. They were considered as ambassadors there, but they were having a partial power. They were controlling areas. Until today in the States, you have found some towns still named Morocco. And you're going to ask why, because they're going to tell you the owner of this land back then, whatever they call them today, the indigenous people of this land, they were from Morocco. They were Moorish. Dude, this is a very normal thing. I don't know why you're so sensitive about it. It was not the king.
At this point, like, bro, you just saying anything at this point.
It was Morocco.
He said they were Moorish. This nigga don't even know his last 100 years when he telling you what was going on there. He said they was Moorish. Indigenous people was Moorish. This nigga is off his rocker. They weren't Moors, they was Moorish. Kind of. Something like. Maybe.
I'm aware that the king of Morocco sent a letter. I forgot his name, but he did send a letter to basically petition for some of the people who were enslaved to say that they were citizens of Morocco. I'm aware of that. True. Right? I'm aware that there were treaties.
He had power. I swear to God, he had power.
I'm aware that based on, I think it's Barry Feld, and people say that some of his stuff is pseudo, but I think he was from Harvard University, if I'm not mistaken. And he documented the Arabic writing, Kufic writing, that was found in the Americas. And that's obviously a language that the Moors used it.
Right. Yeah.
And some of these artifacts were dated to the Umayyad period. The Umayyad was a group is actually the first dynasty of the Moors that conquered North Africa and spread Islam. So that was during the Umayyad period, about 896. So I can work with you there. If you're saying that there were Moroccans in the Americas, fine. But to say that America is Morocco, I had someone try to tell me that actually the
the real Nile Valley is the Mississippi River, and that like it never.
We never said America was Morocco. We said America was falling under a partial power from the Sultan of Morocco due to the citizen who were living in the U.S. And there was no critical power who was holding institutions in the U.S. back then. So it was very normal when you have a strong empire to defend your citizen out overseas. It's fine. It's not. Doesn't mean
That's
that
only after y'all
Morocco tried to occupy.
So when it comes down to you selling us out, that's what you did. Well, if you want to talk about skin color, but you have, your people have came to my land with the white man, and what y'all did was took over us as the melanated people here.
Maybe Sanu Bay can help out Alexandria. Alexander, my bad.
Took over. It sound weird.
Because we need some documentation of any historical records that says that America or North America is Morocco.
I saw one back.
Secular mainstream history. There is no widely accepted archaeological documentary proof that Moorish or West African Muslims civilizations established a presence in America prior to the fake ass Christopher Columbus, Christopher Columbus. There is no proof, sir.
All a lie. And the
Suck your teeth a little harder. Maybe it'll change.
Lie is starting to be exposed. This is how God works. The lie cannot be hidden forever. And those who do not want to
You guys are
read
so
the
funny.
book,
I don't know why you think this is a critical thing.
Y'all weird. The rest of the world knows except for y'all. Y'all don't want to be ignorant to this shit. That's why. That's why.
Why is there no document or proof and nowhere in history?
Go and see where you did that. Go ask. Demonstrate to me that North America is in the Moorish or Mexican, the Moorish / Mexican / Moroccan Empire. Go write that in ChatGPT. Say, well, you just did that. Go write that in there, and they're gonna bring you up stuff that you can look at. Ask the right questions. Start trying to ask them to prove something wrong, and making us.
Just show us some documents, treaties, or historical records to show that America is considered Morocco.
Are you fucking stupid? It was never been considered Morocco, and was falling under a partial power of Morocco because of the citizens who fucking traveled back to the U.S. And I wish they
Say that again. Hold on, because you just said all these fucking Moorish motherfuckers, right? So say that shit again. What was the first statement? What was your first statement, Alexander?
say what?
What was your first statement you just made? There was no such
statement was I fucking hate the fact that they were going to the U.S., whatever you call the U.S. now. It was not the U.S., it was the new land. They were going there, and my fucking empire was trying to protect their citizens. I hate that fucking fact now, because I knew after...
But you said something different.
Fucking stupid people...
You said something different, though. You said something different. So America was not considered Morocco, right?
America was not even there. Get it to your mind.
So, all right. So America was not considered Morocco, right enough. The northern hemisphere of what we call America, was it considered Morocco?
The new land was partially under control of the Sultan who was controlling Morocco. Not for occupation, but because the citizens of the Moroccan Empire were there.
Okay. So because Moroccan nationals or Moroccan citizens are over on the North American hemisphere,
and
you're saying that still doesn't make that America. I mean, that still don't make America or that area Morocco, right?
We never said that the U.S. was Morocco, because Morocco was not something that you just called Morocco. You're referring to Morocco now as the country in 2026.
Moroccan Empire or anything. I don't don't care if you say the Moroccan clan, the Moroccan Empire. Was any of that shit over on the North American hemisphere?
Let me explain. When you say Spain, today it's not Spain as in 19 whatever is that. Spanish Empire was everywhere. It was in Colombia, Venezuela.
It could have been all kinds of Spains. It was probably like 5 or 6 Egypts, but we ain't talking about that. Was at any point in time the North American hemisphere, the North Hemisphere of the internet, was it ever considered Moroccan territory, an empire, or any of that shit?
Partially, yes. Partially.
All right, give me a source.
Yeah, because from my understanding, Estabanako, a.k.a. Mustafa al-Azamora, is a Moroccan explorer, but he was brought here enslaved and brought by the Spanish conquistadors to act as a crucial scout in Florida. And this is 1527.
So who are you then?
I'm so regular nigga from the
We a bunch of niggas trying to find out why you lying. So we still waiting to find out where this record is that some of this area was considered Moroccan territory or the Moroccan Empire. We waiting for that source. I'm waiting.
Can I ask a question? Because
go ahead, man.
The root of this question, right? Let's say that what she's saying is true, right? The way that she's rewording it, I
don't even think that's a female. I think that's a man or something.
What?
Boy, man. So there's a bunch of them. There's like 5 of them up in the little ass.
Whatever this person is saying, right?
I think it's a pan tonight.
Is plausible. My question is, why are we bringing this up? And my second question is, why did they lie about this history? Because I'm sure that's the point that this person is trying to drive home, right? Why?
I think it's an agenda. It was an agenda possibly that Moors was trying to colonize America, and they got shut down and stopped somehow, some way. But people who still was pushing this narrative, a concept, they still was holding the torch and still probably lived over here.
A lot of them was in debt to Spain, so Spain had them doing their dirty work to pay off their debt. Christopher Columbus was definitely in debt. That's not his real name, but he was in debt. I just let them know that they was in debt. That's why they was looking for some help. But they was about to get conquered, which they did get conquered. And so I knew I ain't coming at you cuz, but I definitely said any global proof of Moroccan presence in America, and that's the information they gave us, cuz. Global proof. I said global proof, not just American proof, cuz.
So does this mean that because my first question is, why would they hide this history, right? Now the second question is, what does this mean does this mean Black Americans should now identify as Moroccans?
We identified as indigenous.
They are supposed to be without even us being in America because their origins are coming from home.
We not Berbers. Why would we be from y'all? We not Berbers. We are indigenous to these lands. It's like you're indigenous to your land. Bro, the first people in Africa was the Khoisan. You're not the Khoisan.
All black people is the only people I know that you gotta argue who they tell them who they really are.
You don't even know who the fuck you really are.
Gentlemen, the oldest humans that we know today that refers to the humans who can make civilization are Homo sapiens, and their origins is coming from Morocco 315,000 years ago. So everybody, even the Chinese people, have a little of Moroccanism in their blood. That's it. You should acknowledge that.
Nobody on Earth says what you just said.
Give us a source. Give us a source for what you just said.
You know, it's called, there's a remains in Morocco. It's about 300,000.
I don't care if you say we came from fucking aliens. Give me a source. Where you getting that shit from?
Okay, but this is like very well done. Like that's like asking.
Well, they say some shit called Jebel El Harhoud, Morocco, 315,000 years old. This is what most people meant by the oldest Africans. But the Khoisan is older than them, so I don't get it.
It's interesting shit. They said the motherfucking asteroids be falling over there near Morocco. That's all interesting.
Okay, some things don't need a source, man. That's like asking me, what's the source that 1 + 1 is 2? Give me a source for that. It's like, bro, this is very well known that they found this stuff in Morocco. But the question is, why is it that the people with the oldest haplogroup don't live in Morocco?
Some people might say 1 + 1 might equal 3.
Where's your source for that, brother?
I don't really understand what you're all talking about.
Okay, anyway,
all right.
I'm just making a point. Anyway.
Some people might say 1 + 1 equals.
It's a very clear,
equals.
It's a very clear, obvious thing.
Equals something else than the people normally.
When Earth was only one plane.
I got a question for Alexandria. Alexander, my bad.
Finish this.
Nah, pause that. Because I just wanted to see how smart you are, right? If me and you at the beach, and you got 2 pounds of sand, and I got 2 pounds of sand, and we put them together, how much we got at that point? Alexander?
We gotta be having 4 hands putting sand.
Is that an answer? I'm gonna say this shit again. If I got 2, if we at the beach,
question?
If we at the beach and I got 2 pounds of sand and you got 2 pounds of sand and we put it together, how much we got? Huh?
Okay, that cut me off. Okay, so you're asking me to answer.
Smiling though. What's so funny? Why you smiling? You tickled pink about something?
Because I truly understand why they say Americans are really out of.
What this got to do with fucking kids? Answer the question. Stop procrastinating. He procrastinating. He or she, whatever the fuck is going on over there. What's the answer to the question?
So funny.
No answer, y'all. See how dumb these Moroccans are? Can't even answer the question. You still need more time? Or you trying to count on your fucking toes and fingers?
What more sources do you need?
Yep.
Huh? That's how you shut them down. No answer, because they can't answer the shit. They ain't smart enough.
So aggressive with Moroccans.
You're not smart enough. I don't care that you're Moroccan. I wouldn't care if you were Scooby-Doo cousin. I'ma talk to you about the fucking question I just asked you.
You're talking.
So what's the answer? Since you're so smart, what's the answer?
I don't disrespect myself like that to answer such a stupid question.
Yeah, I know it's stupid because you gave the wrong answer anyway. You talking about if we had 4 hands on whatever the fuck you was talking about. You wanted to try to.
I didn't say
don't
that.
put me
Yes, you did.
What was the question that you asked?
Using their 2 hands, but
This
on each other.
Moroccan, only a Moroccan dummy would get that wrong.
The question, like you read.
Only a Moroccan dummy would get it wrong.
Don't put me. What was the question you asked them?
I asked this Moroccan dummy if we was at the beach and he had 2 pounds of sand and I had 2 pounds of sand and we put it all together, what we got?
Better.
And this dummy didn't know the answer. This stupid ass Moroccan did not know the answer, man.
Okay.
Let's stop at this point. How many languages you speak, smarty American?
I want you to tell me the answer to the fucking question, Alexandria.
How many languages?
Or Alexander. I keep saying Alexandria. You sound like a woman.
Alexander, I want to understand what your worldview is because you're saying that we've all got a bit of Moroccan in us because the oldest remains are in Morocco, right? So you're saying
the oldest remains that shows people who.
Everybody put the answer in the room chat. I mean, what you got?
Yeah, I understand the gist of what you're saying. So what I want to understand from you is, are you what exactly is your worldview? Do you subscribe to Islam? Do you subscribe to some Moroccan spirit?
He is Islamic.
Dude.
He a Muslim Morocco.
You don't want to answer, it's fine. I'm just trying to understand you. To me, that's more interesting than what this whole you guys are dopamine and doing right now. This is just
First things first.
First things first. Papa.
I'm very nervous.
First thing, you need to learn your own history before you start speaking on other history. First thing you need to do is learn how to fucking add and subtract. Stupid.
That I can speak your
You don't even know how many fucking pounds of sand you got.
historically on it. I can expose you so
You don't even know how many pounds of sand you got, though. How you don't know how many pounds of sand you got?
languages you speak.
How many pounds of sand you got?
You probably don't know one.
How many pounds of sand you got, stupid?
You don't even have money.
How many pounds of sand you got, though, stupid?
You have money to pay insurance to your
How many pounds of sand you got, stupid? Tell me.
Can we stop this?
Free
Alexander,
healthcare.
bigger than this. Why are you engaging in this?
Because it's a Moroccan dummy.
Okay. Can you
Because
answer
he
the
is
question,
trying to
Alexander,
let
or
me
you
influence-
not want to?
Ben, I don't hear your voice is so far away. Very far away.
Okay, how about now? How do I sound now?
You said it wasn't nothing wrong with your mic, man. You alright.
Mute this beautiful guy. Let me mute him. How can we do that here? Can we mute him? We cannot. Unfortunately. Only friends can message us here. Absolutely. Okay, so Ben, what was your question again? Ben, you were saying what? Oh, JJ, welcome.
You can tell that's a slave. That's why they got Massa on they goddamn PTR. Massa.
Absolutely. White slave are better than a black one. Put it this on your
A white slave is better than a black one?
Ben?
How, when the black slave is stronger?
Don't talk to me. You speak one language. Don't talk to me. You don't
know how many languages I speak.
Ben,
You don't even know how many pounds of fucking sand you got.
All right. Yeah.
How many pounds of sand you got, stupid?
Yep. Absolutely.
He couldn't get a fucking sand question right.
We get now to the reasons, right? I'm sorry.
This motherfucker said 4 pounds of sand.
I'm
You
talking.
stupid.
I'm talking. Mr. Black, I'm talking.
You fucking stupid.
Nigga.
That's the right one. You's a stupid motherfucker, and you ignorant.
Nigga.
You need 4 fucking heads for 4 pounds of sand, huh?
Stop.
Stupid motherfucker.
Stop.
Everybody know if you take 1 pile of sand and 1 pile of sand and another pile of sand and another pile of sand, if you was to put all that motherfucking sand together, you had a pile of sand, you dumbass fucking Moroccan. Stupid fucking, stupid motherfucking dumbass. This motherfucking name Alexander is the dumbest Moroccan ever heard on fucking Clubhouse and on Earth. You stupid as shit. You over here talking about America is Morocco. You stupid motherfucker. That's wrong too, dumbass. You've been getting everything wrong. And the Pantheon been fucking you up since you've been here.
Shut up.
Yeah, I hear you, but you got blood in you that's from niggas probably. You know that? You got some motherfucking blood up in you. You know that? Because you just as ignorant as them dumb niggas that don't know that fucking more shit you talking about.
Americans.
You don't know nothing about it. You can suck an American dick, and you stupid as shit. Everything you say is what Sanu say, and you don't have no sources just like Sanu Bay don't have none. So we gonna keep this nigga on stage and let your stupid fucking dumbass go down in that goo. Cause you don't even know if you put 2 piles of sand together, how many piles you got. You stupid motherfucker. How you don't know that? If you take 4 piles of sand and put it all together, you got 4, you stupid motherfucker. You dumb as shit. You got 1 pile of sand at the beach, you stupid motherfucker. This dumb ass nigga didn't even know that. That is crazy.
That's beyond the skies, motherfucker. Bring your ass on up here with your doctor.
Ben wanted to play. Ben wanted to play with the dumb motherfucker.
Yeah, he out of here. He gone. He left.
Ben was like, hold on, what do you mean? Let's talk about this. I guess he'll remember the 4 pounds of sand, nigga.
That just show you that everybody who sound different, that don't mean they smarter. That motherfucker was dumb as shit. Rick was fucking him up. Gigi fucking him up.
Oh, my, Rick got there, ate his ass up and did it.
They ain't calling him out.
Put the link in that supported Rick's goddamn argument. You can't make this shit
And I
up.
still said it. You got 2 piles of sand and I got 2 piles of sand at the beach. If you put them all together, what you got? That motherfucker said you gonna need 4 hands. For what?
How we sleep, brother? How we sleep, Sanu? How we sleep? What makes us sleep? We try to wake your motherfucking ass up, nigga. And you got that coming in the room crying and shit. Now you back in the chat.
We just know his information is still flawed. Let's find out they done made that shit up. America is Morocco. It ain't a Moroccan on Clubhouse that can help you, nigga. We had the boy with the fez on. He was over here misquoting the treaty. He's saying the treaty say one thing, and that's a whole lie. So you know he heard it from somebody and just repeated it. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship do not say America is fucking Morocco, man. So that's something a lot of people should have learned in the Pantheon. So Mario, man, what's good? Man, we learned about Plato's cave in this motherfucker, man. That's something y'all learned about in the Pantheon, Plato's cave.
Yeah, I ain't know nothing about it.
Shout outs to tomorrow. Shout outs to the Republic. When that shit sit in, like Plato's cave, when you really process it and let that shit sit, man, I ain't even want to talk for a couple of days. That shit is just, damn. That shit just hit you. Some people really be thinking they know what's on the other side of that world and really don't know shit.
Facts. Dopamine, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm just reading. I asked the question. I think this starts with that a noble Juali person. It says in academic and mainstream historical records, the land we call America today was never officially named or referred to as Morocco. However, there are 2 distinct contexts, one historical and one modern, where this idea appears. The Maghreb al-Qassar interpretation. In medieval Arabic geography, the region of modern-day Morocco was called al-Maghrib, al-Aqsa, whatever, which translates to the farthest west. As European explorers moved across the Atlantic.
Does that say Amexim?
No, sir. It says A-L-A-Q-S-A, Al-Aqsa.
No, Al-Aqsa, okay.
Yeah, Al-Aqsa and Al-Maghrib, which translates to farthest west. As Europeans explorers moved across the Atlantic, some scholars and later theorists noted that from the perspective of the old world, the Americas became the new farthest west, while geographers like Al-Iridisi 12th century, made maps that reached the edge of the Atlantic. They generally referred to the Atlantic as the Sea of Darkness and did not label any land across it as Morocco. 2. The Moorish Science Temple of America. The most prominent claim that America is Morocco comes from the Moorish Science Temple of America, but I think Sanu, I hear him talk about the most. Founded by Noble Drew Ali in 1913, the claim Ali taught that African Americans were Moors and that the Mora Empire originally encompassed North America, which they refer to as Northwest America. Amex. Is that the word you were referring to? AMEXEM?
Yeah, Maxim. That's what he was saying.
Okay. Northwest Amexem, Northwest Africa. Okay. The logic. Within this belief system, the land of the Americas is seen as a geographical extension of the Moroccan Empire, and the Moorish people are viewed as its indigenous inhabitants. Impact. This has led to a specific legal and cultural movement, sometimes linked to Moorish sovereign citizens who used the 1786 Treaty of Peace and Friendship to argue that they are on Moroccan soil and thus subject to different laws. Summary of evidence. Perspective was American, called Morocco. Context, okay? Those are the headings. Mainstream history. Was American called Morocco? No. Oh, shoot. It just phased me right out to life. Got to be more careful. Okay, it brought me back. Context. Primary sources. Maybe I'm not mentioning.
Can someone just show us a map, where America is called Morocco? That would be...
Well, it's saying there was no map. There is no map where it would reach to the edge, but from there in the Atlantic, it was called, there was nothing labeled Morocco. That's what I just read. There is no map that would say that. Primary sources, Spanish, English, French, indigenous, never used this name for the land. More science, yes. Based on the religious historical tenet that the Moroccan Empire extended to the Americas. So that was something they created. Arabic etymology, no, but similar. The name for Morocco, Maghreb, simply means west leading to conceptual overlaps. While you won't find Morocco on early European maps of the Americas, the deep connection between the two, starting with Morocco's first recognition of the United States in 1777, has fueled these alternative historical narratives. Are you looking for blah, 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 blah. Then you want to go into my genealogy.
Noble Ali was a Freemason, right?
I've heard that.
Yeah. That's all you want. That's all you want.
What's wrong with Freemasons?
There's Freemasons all over the world.
But not no Freemason. He didn't take no oath or none of that. No oath or no pledge.
That's not what the world says.
He wasn't just a Freemason either. He was a Shriner. Show me this by the title of his name and Noble July.
Give me a sign. Show me his name in the book. If he's a Freemason, show me the book where he signed. Show me his name in the book.
Hey, where'd you get the information from that he's a Freemason?
Right.
I can put this site up. Hold on, I'm driving right now, so it's not back in. I can give you the site.
Okay, good looking now.
What's the reference? What's the source that say?
Because I'm agreeing with you, bro. So don't act like I'm on your tape.
I'm not saying you agree with me. I don't need you to agree with me.
Right. So because you made a comment when I was talking to him, and you put my fault while I was talking to him.
Slap on a booty ass.
Johnston in Paris and John Adams in London. Ratification Confederation. Congress ratified the treaty on July 18th, 1787.
That's when he became a Freemason.
So check this fly shit out. Evidence suggests Noble Drew Ali, Timothy Drew, was heavily influenced and a member of Prince Hall Masonry or the ancient Egyptian Arabic order Noble Mystic Shrine, AEAONMS. Proof is often cited through photographs with the Egyptian Shriner. Hold on, damn, I'm trying to drive. Oh, I got you.
Don't drive, don't crash, bro. Thank you.
Now I'm spinning the block. When I spin the block, I try to make sure I know what I'm doing. I can drive straight and read.
But you want to take it as proof because it says suggest. They don't say this is fact or this is evidence. It says suggest. So that's probably right there.
You will never.
Maybe all this stuff is just fairy tales, man.
If you don't want you to know you're Freemason, you'll never know.
Maybe all this more stuff is just fairy tales.
Well, I do. It does say that the peace treaty, the treaty of peace and friendship, that's real.
That was with the actual Morocco over in North Africa.
And what the Supreme Court said.
That wasn't no fucking negotiation. These niggas was so dumb. They was trying to say that Morocco was in America, acknowledging America from America instead of overseas.
What? That don't even sound right.
Exactly. That's how y'all niggas sound stupid. Morocco acknowledged America and allowed America to port their fucking ships in their goddamn port over there in North America, dum-dum.
Yeah. It wasn't no Morocco at that time.
It wasn't no Morocco at that time?
No.
Then how did Morocco acknowledge America, stupid?
Because Morocco means the nation of the extreme west. He just told you this stuff, but you don't stuff in context because you can't read.
Oh, give us a timeline then.
Vanessa just said it.
No, give us a timeline then. You dumb motherfucker. You show me a timeline of what you talking about.
She just said it.
Give me a timeline of what you said. Give me a timeline of this history, you bitch ass, lying ass nigga.
On me because you ain't listening to that, Vanessa.
You stupid. You can't speak for yourself. You can't say it for yourself, nigga. Give me the timeline then. Exactly. Crickets every time. You ain't got no information.
You don't know how to work.
Give me the fucking timeline then.
We bleeding on stage, nigga. Till the big ass.
He can't give you no timeline or none of that shit he talking about. Hey, Uncle, I dropped a link for you. This is the Chicago, University of Chicago Press. Okay.
That's what it sounds like to me, the bootleg press. From my Chicago press. Bootleg press?
You ain't got no fucking information. So I know, you know that nigga was a circus performer, right? You know he performed at the circus. Little Drew Ali performed at the circus in Europe. That's why he must have got a little bit of knowledge that came over here. I'm dead serious, but this nigga leader is a circus act. That's crazy, right?
Y'all mad because y'all
is a fucking circus act.
Y'all mad because you're busy over taking it up the ass.
What is he, a fucking clown? Was he a clown? Was he a fucking clown?
You're doing everything you say.
You mean to tell me Noble Drew Ali was a circus clown?
Y'all ain't know that from a
He was a fucking circus clown? I think I did see a picture with him with a big old raised nose with that fucking hat on.
Oh, my side hurts. You been bleeding all motherfucking morning, nigga. It's noon,
You know how you go to the carnival and that shit with the little thing on his head, it give you a little psychic thing? Probably the little psychic teller. Probably was a mystic or some shit.
You know the sad part about it? Y'all still nigga, your name Rick. Rick, you don't even own your.
You know what the word Rick mean? Rick mean column. You know that?
Oh shit, you don't own your fucking name. How about that?
You don't Rick is my name. I took my authority. That's my universal name, Rick Star. I created that name. And you know that? That shit got a trademark on it. It's like, nah, it's an ugly ass nigga on Facebook and Instagram named Rick Star. I'm gonna fuck that nigga up in real life. I can see that nigga. He a cocky nigga too. Yeah, that nigga took my name, some cocky ass nigga. Ugly ass. Jesus.
You don't own nothing. You don't own your name.
Why you mad at us, brother?
I ain't trusting no nigga getting food stamps.
I'm just telling you, I know y'all don't own your name.
You know Drew Ali put Bard Ali on game, right?
Who Bard Ali? That's how I know.
You know that nigga? Bard.
I ain't
He
listening
put him
to
up
that.
on game in Newark, New Jersey.
I ain't listening to no nigga getting food stamps.
I'm screaming.
You out here asking the white people for help, brother? Because you gotta tell them I need help. I'm hungry. I can't afford to feed myself.
That nigga talking about he's sovereign getting food stamps. How you sovereign getting food stamps, nigga?
Give them niggas all your information too, your financial shit. Help me.
Nigga talking about he's sovereign getting food stamps. Fuck out of here.
You have to tell the state that you cannot afford to feed yourself because you purchased it.
This nigga talking about he's sovereign, he can't fucking feed himself.
Yeah, you bleed, nigga. Bleed.
That don't sound like he autonomous to me.
You sound like.
That don't sound like no autonomous American to me.
They think they're getting their reparations when they steal from the
That
state.
nigga getting reparations when he get them food stamps, nigga.
Getting over on the government. Get our shit back. Government don't pay that shit. The people pay that shit.
Anybody getting food stamps. Everybody getting food stamps already getting reparations, nigga.
What I want to do is joke and clown. I'm talking about y'all cool.
You the one came in the motherfucking room.
That's the truth, though, man. If I was president, I say you getting food stamps, you got your reparations.
I got better things.
Your ass out of here. You got reparations. Getting the motherfucking food stamps.
Yeah, you can't even stand the goddamn rain, nigga. You can't stand the garlic. You can't stand the garlic. You gonna cry.
He be trying to get benefits like a woman.
You can't. This a tender dick ass motherfucking nigga.
He be getting benefits like he a woman and shit. Food stamps, child support. Damn, y'all done made cuz leave. That nigga want free. He want free medical. Like a little girl. That part hurt. I said,
Motherfucker wanna cry and shit, he want sympathy, and all about he want that shit, he be writing bullshit in the goddamn.
that nigga girl might be around. He get embarrassed.
He ain't embarrassed, that nigga ain't got no shame, nigga. That motherfucker crying.
That nigga be in a welfare office with his fucking tax.
What I was in the middle of explaining. So he went
it up. Speed it up.
Can I speed up? Yeah, well, I'm having to repeat myself because I mean it seems like there are some people who are deliberately trying to mischaracterize and misunderstand. I don't want the government to take over any aspects of the private sector. That would be ideal. If the government has a way in defending this country at a national level, which it does, then